Yes, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world, whatever time it is for you. Welcome back to Football Heritage TV. It's Wednesday night. There is absolutely no football on anywhere. The only games I could find were in the Albanian Cup, which I know James Flower will be watching, but we decided to do a stream. Welcome to Stel from Tottenham Away, to Lubo. How are you guys on this lovely, cold London evening?
All good here, thanks.
Good.
We're going to have a fun couple of hours now, aren't we?
When do we not have a fun couple of hours?
Absolutely.
When do we not? Stel, you good?
Yeah, all good. Weather's pretty shabby, snowing, Arctic cold and whatnot, but that's why you've got central heating, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I've got the heating. I turn it on. She turns it off. You know, we play that game, and you know, it is what it is. I always tell her that I'm Greek and I like the heat. I'm not born for this coldness. Listen, guys, I titled the show, Spurs fans are buzzword crazy. And look, I'm starting to get really confused. Listen, I feel like I've got dementia before I've actually got it, if that makes sense. I feel like what we're seeing at Spurs doesn't quite marry up to what's being portrayed by so many people. I'm not just saying content creators, just so many people that come into the chat rooms. And I want to talk about it. I want to talk about these buzzwords. And the main ones I'm referring to, gents, would be process, project, rebuild, AngeBall. Keep hearing all these words. I keep asking people to give me an answer as to, okay, but what is that? And I don't get an answer. Lubo, let me start with you. What is it about these buzzwords that Spurs fans love? I don't. Other fans might do it. I don't care. What is it about, especially the word rebuild? What are we rebuilding from and to? And why is this word, big up Haz, why is this word used every day by Spurs fans, but no one can tell me what it is?
I don't know. I thought a rebuild was when you put an extension on a house or you rip out the electrics.
Like a renovation.
Could be. It could be. That's a rebuild. That's a rebuild. I don't know what a rebuild. What's a rebuild? If you are, I don't know. You know, you mentioned rebuild. You mentioned process. I was on the way home from work tonight, and I'm trying to think of the word process, and I thought to myself, do you know what? It's the wrong word. The right word is, the right two words are strategy and plan. And I'll tell you what that was. And that the last time I think we saw that at Spurs was when Pochettino came in the club, and he got everybody sat together in the canteen. Everybody, all the players walked in, shook hands with each other, said good morning first thing. He had all the teams throughout, from the first team down to the academy, to the youngest academy team, playing in the same way. He looked at the first team in that first season, got rid of the players he didn't rate, brought in players like Sonny, like Toby, that he wanted. Yeah. And there was a plan set out. There was a proper plan. It was a proper, you know, he knew exactly what team he wanted to play the way he wanted. And it just wasn't a crazy system where, you know, you're throwing your team in and trying to teach players with different abilities and different strengths to slot into that system. Because that's hit and miss as it's shown. So I think people get mixed up. They talk about process, they talk about rebuild, and I think it's a fudge. I think it's an excuse for what's going on, to be honest. You know.
Let me ask it. I mean, Stel, let me bring you in here. I blame Pochettino for these buzzwords because obviously the famous quote that came out, I'm just kidding, by the way, the famous quote that came out from Poch, wasn't it, was, you know, we need a rebuild. We need a painful rebuild. Now every single time we have a transfer window, our fans latch on and go, but it's a rebuild, but it's a rebuild. Can you have a rebuild still when you have a summer transfer window where you sign one player for your first 11? You sign one senior pro. Can that possibly fall under the remit of a rebuild? Or is this the world's slowest rebuild where we're going to buy one player over 11 transfer windows to rebuild the 11?
Good evening, everyone.
Good
I hope
evening.
everyone's well. Everyone in the comments as well, big up. Smash a like for the channel. I don't believe you can rebuild something if you've never built something in the first place to rebuild. What are we rebuilding? We've never built success under Enoch, under Levy. We've never built success. You could say we won a trophy under Juan de Ramos, but he came in, won a trophy, then went out in the space of a year or two. So that wasn't a build. I think what Poch did was, when he said painful rebuild, I think what he referred to was we built a team that could compete at the highest level. And he did. We were competing for the league. We competed for the Champions League, getting to the final. I think what he meant was we need to go for a painful rebuild, i.e. we've got to get rid of a lot of these players, bring in a whole new load of players, which is going to take time. And it's going to be a lot of ups and downs in that process. And it's not going to be how you have been used to under the previous 3-4 years of Poch. So there's going to be a transitional period, and that's going to be painful because we're not used to that. I think that's what he was referring to. But for me, I don't understand why you need a project. Arnie Slot's gone to Liverpool, signed one player, top of the league, got a little gap at the top of the league, doing really well in the Champions League. They're in all the domestic cups, as far as I'm aware. And they are, 3 months in, they're outdoing us by a country mile. Where's the project plan process there? I don't understand it. I just don't get it. So I just think words like rebuild and project and process have been taken out of context from what they originally meant.
Exactly.
And fans use it as an excuse to justify failure. It's an easy way to say, look, we're not doing well now, but it's a project. But like I've said to you before, Sava, we're now 24 years into a new 4-year project. So
it's going well. It's going well. We're doing well.
We're mid-table after 24 years into the project. So yeah, it's great. Fantastic.
I mean, Haz, it's interesting, isn't it? And listen, I wouldn't mind, right, Haz? I really wouldn't mind. And welcome to the show. I really wouldn't mind if, when I ask people, and I don't know if you've seen my debate shows on a Monday night.
Yeah.
And I know. Listen, do you know what? It's literally, I've got all the answers ready to go for what people are going to come on and say, and they all say the same thing. Yeah, but Sava, it's a rebuild. I asked one question: what's the rebuild? Well, no. What's the rebuild? We're buying young players. That's not a rebuild. Every club across the country buys young players. What's the rebuild? So what do you make of it, Hans, before we move on from this word?
First of all, I'm going to go through the Poch, how I understood Poch's message for the painful rebuild, the comment. Yeah. I understood it is that the fact that we had all these 11, 12, 13 players who were, as Stel alluded to, challenging for things. And the painful part was the fact that we're going to have to let go of some players which, say, were like fan favourites, like your Vertongers, your Alderweireld's, who eventually did leave later on. And, obviously Delhi happened with Delhi. And then the rebuild part was the fact that he'd have to dismantle that team he had back then and rebuild like a whole new one. That's how I understood the comment. My understanding of rebuild is more like the Yol rebuild, because Yol had an aging side before him. We're talking like Tarico, Jamie Redknapp, players like that who were there in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s for a very long time. And he gave debuts to players like Gareth Bale, Aaron Lennon, when they were 18, by the way, Callum Davenport, Tom Huddleston, Michael Carrick, players who were between 18 and 21 on the most part. Yeah. And that was, I would consider, a long-term rebuild, as in the way people present it now, saying that Archie Gray...
He actually played them, right, Haz? Like I seem to remember
that's
these
what
guys
I'm gonna
joining
allude to in a
Tottenham.
second. Yeah. So
Sorry, go on.
this summer, like you mentioned, because I saw it on one of your previous shows, we signed all these young players, and you were on board with it if he was going to play them, say, regular minutes in the Premier League, like Archie Gray's.
Right.
And he said to yourself, if you get rid of Son, you get rid of Davies, all these older players, and started playing these 18-year-olds or 20-year-olds, whatever, then you would see it as like they are building in a sense of in 2-3 years' time, this team will play together, and maybe we'll have to add like 2 or 3 on top. But the problem is that you might use the word rebuild, but the manager's not reflecting his team selections on rebuilds because he's playing all these senior players instead. We've had one first teamer in Solanke come in from as a change from last season. So essentially, we're a major contradiction in like every sense. So the rebuild is just a myth right now because it doesn't really exist. Like we're not having one, and if, in my opinion, rebuild didn't have to exist because you could have bought 3 first teamers and chucked them straight in anyway. But it's just a myth. I think it's a myth, to be honest.
I completely agree with you, and I think I can't find the comment now, but I think Ethan made a really good point here and said, "Look, our summer would have indicated that we were one player away from success." He's right, isn't it? That transfer window would have almost suggested we've got a brilliant team. All we need is a centre forward. Let's get some kids to back that up. That's what that summer transfer window suggested. Let me ask you, Lubo. When we look at the words project in football, and we say project managers, I like that some people are win now managers and others are project managers. First of all, in this day and age, does anyone really get the time to be a project manager? Second of all, do fans have the patience for a so-called project manager? And C, doesn't project just allude to the fact that really it's a way of saying we're going to go cheap? Like, let's be fair. If we were serious, you go and buy 2 or 3 top players in the summer, stick them into the first 11 and go, oh, that's a build. We're building. We're built. Instead, we bought loads of kids cheap and we're palming it off as a project. A lot of information there, but I'll leave that with you, Ian.
Okay, what's a project? If I were to define a project in football, it's probably what someone like Martin Jol did. You come in, you got an aging team, you got to change it. I mean, Poch actually, looked at his style of football, saw that certain players weren't performing within that style, within the press, etc., and looked at it and said, I need a rebuild. I've probably got 4 or 5 here that are holding the team back. We're not playing, in the year after we finished second to Chelsea, we weren't playing, okay, we went to Wembley. But, you're still playing football on a football pitch. And the football was nowhere near as good that year at Wembley. I know the players, Reece said, didn't he, in his book, that they took time to adjust. That's the sort of project, where had he backed him at the end of the season when he finished second to Chelsea, and they went 18 months then without buying a player, then Poch could have integrated players. He could have got very good players in. They were seconds. They were regular Champions League at that stage. I think it was second or third year coming up. Players would have come. It's an exciting project. Pochettino's stock was high. And that was the time to have a rebuild, bring in 3 or 4. If that's, maybe a couple the following year. And all of a sudden, Poch has probably got another team that's more than capable of playing that sort of football and winning games. I think, what's the project? Chelsea was a project when Poch went in there. That was a project. Yep. You've come to the end of a long period where Abramovich has won 19 trophies in 18 years.
Yep.
Players had to be cleared out. Players had to be bought. I mean, they've gone berserk on the buying, and that they very cleverly got round it by handing over 8-year contracts. But you know what? If Chelsea don't get in the Champions League for the next few years, then they're in trouble because of the money that's been spent with FFP. I'm not here to worry about Chelsea, but just using them as an example.
Lubo's just admitted he's a Chelsea fan.
No, just saying, listen,
you're worried about
Chelsea.
Chelsea.
I'd rather be Chelsea than Arsenal, mate. But I love as a manager, I love Poch, and for me, thank goodness he's gone, because I think he would have taken them virtually up to the top. I really do.
Well, he already started, Ian. Leon, if we look at it from game 10 last season, Chelsea were the third best team in the league. And we finished above them because we had that miraculous start at the beginning of the season. Sure. But their form over 30 games was only bettered by Arsenal and Man City. They were actually better than Liverpool over the last 30 games of the season. And
crazy was that?
But this my point with this is, and Dylan just made a great point. Big up Dylan. He's in one of my Spurs WhatsApp groups. Yeah, it's absolutely. We should be seeing more highs than lows as you progress in a project. Listen, there's bumps in the road, but bumps in the road can't be the answer every time something bad happens. Like, oh, we lost to Palace, it's a bump. Oh, we were outclassed in Galatasaray, it's a bump. We lose to Ipswich, it's a bump. Well, these bumps should be getting fewer and further between, right, Ian? Surely not. It shouldn't be every other week we're having a bump in the road.
Well, listen, if you look at, we've been through the average for points per game. Nothing's changed since Chelsea of last year. In 12 months, it's exactly the same. We basically flatlined with mid-table mediocrity. We're 1.42, 1.45 points. So you're winning every game, you're losing every game. Win, lose. That's the 1.45, 1.5. You're getting 3 points out of every 6. So what's the point of that? You end up with 57 points if that's how you go through a season. And the way we hardly draw. We don't draw, do we?
We never draw. We hardly draw any games. And I won't bring up my. I see that table I put together. I've seen it's doing around now.
So if you'd have drawn at Brighton, if you'd have drawn at Palace. If you'd have drawn at Newcastle, those 3 points put us third.
There you go. The last calendar year, not one draw at White Hart Lane. We've had five draws in the calendar year. 5 draws. I can't even think who they were now. Leicester City.
West Ham away last year in April.
West Ham. Everton. I want to say maybe Everton away.
It was 2-2 draw. Yeah. Oh, I've got them here.
But this is the point, right? It's like Estelle, look, this is the point. Moving on from Ian, keeping to Ian's point. We have flatlined literally for 12 months. We have flatlined, and then when I'm watching today, and look, I'm not going to bring up YouTubers' names, but I'm watching a show today with people going, "Well, the evidence is showing that we're getting better," and I'm like, I'm screaming without putting in a super chat. I'm screaming in the chat to say, "What evidence?" Like, show me what evidence are you seeing that we're getting better? So where is this notion coming from, Stel, when everything is showing that we flatlined? That's a great way Ian said it. Everything is showing we flatlined.
There's no evidence unless you cherry pick attacking metrics and you compare specific cherry picked stats that you compare from last year to this year to say, oh, but look, that's improved, but then you ignore the other ones that have gone backwards. So it's all cherry picked to serve an agenda. The fact is this: are we doing better in the Carabao Cup this year than last year? Yes. Are we doing better in Europe this year? Well, we weren't in Europe last year, so yes. Are we doing better in the league? No, we're not. So overall, on the balance of play, I think we're about the same as last year because we're doing worse in the league, but we're doing better in the cups. But let's see where that leads us. For me, this is pretty straightforward stuff. If you're going to build a winning team and you're going to do it over time, then there's 2 things you've got to do. One, you've got to be consistent in your transfers and bring in quality, proven quality, to complement the youngsters that you think will come good in 2-3 years' time. So if Archie Gray, Bergvall, Mikey Moore from the academy, Ashley Phillips and the others come through for us in 2-3 years' time, you've got to be signing Van der Ven level players each window to complement them, just as many. So if you sign 3 youngsters, you've got to sign 3 seasoned pros that are ready to go.
Sure.
We don't do that. We don't do that. We don't do that. Everything's just a scattergun approach. Sometimes it makes sense. Other times you think, what the hell are we doing? So that's the first thing. So I don't believe in this project one bit. Like I've said it before, Timo Werner was the prime example of just repetition of failure all over again. The second thing you've got to do is hire the right manager. Ange is the wrong man. He's the wrong manager for what we want. What we want is a younger manager, whether it's a Herzler, an Amorim, is it Marqueza at Chelsea?
Someone like the Girona manager. Someone young, fresh ideas, wants to build, fresh, wants to learn.
High energy, someone that can adapt, someone that's not stubborn, someone that wants to learn. You know, Arteta, as much as they've done nothing, Arsenal, he's young and he's adapted. He's evolved Arsenal. Whether it's going to work or not, we'll see. But they're definitely ahead of us.
Still, Kieran McKenna,
I don't mind. The point is, the point is, if you don't have both, a proper transfer policy that looks pretty similar every single summer, and the right manager, young, dynamic, hungry, people are talking about them. If you don't have those two things, forget it. We have neither. We have a comedy of a transfer window one year, not bad the next. Then a confusing window followed by a rebuild window, and none of it adds up. So the transfers, for me, are still shambolic. As for the manager, he's the wrong guy for this. For me, Ange is no different to the previous managers, except he's more media friendly. He's just more media friendly, and fans love it because he says great things about the club. He says great things about the Tottenham way. He says great things about having our Tottenham back. And whenever it goes wrong, he only blames himself. Doesn't blame the fans, doesn't blame Levy, doesn't blame the players. It's all on him. It's me. So fans aren't used to that. So they're like, great, this is what we want. This is what we want. Why would you want a manager that accepts these transfers? Why would you want a manager who has signed some of these players? Why wouldn't you want a manager who stands there as we're collapsing and does nothing, and then after the game says, well, there's no point bringing on subs because we didn't deserve it because we didn't dominate? Hey, this is such a... he's the wrong manager. Those two things need to be fixed, transfer and manager, and for me, both of them are wrong.
Before I answer that, Sab, can I just say Man City, Man United, Everton, West Ham and Leicester this season are the 5 games that we've drawn away from home.
That's it. Yeah, I'll say that's it. Like I remember. Thank you.
The problem...
We drew.
That's it. Yeah.
Sorry, we drew those games this season.
No, the whole year, wasn't it, or something?
The problem isn't Ange. The problem is not Ange.
It is Ange. He's part of the problem.
No, the problem comes from the top.
Hang
on, stop. Hear me out.
They're part of the problem as well.
Everybody.
If he knew about football, he put someone in charge of the football side who knew about football. Someone who knew the DNA, someone who went and studied managers before they brought them in. Because anyone who would have been checking the way Celtic play would have seen that and Japan and Australia, you cannot play with 2 at the back. So somebody who knows what they're doing would have said, forget Ange, 2 at the back is never going to work in the Premier League. What we've got now is that Levy's got Munn, who Munn may be very good at business, but he's not a football person. So Munn has brought Ange in. So why would Munn bring Ange in if he had proper knowledge that Ange's style of football is never going to work in the Premier League?
No. But it fit the remit though of what Levy wanted.
Levy needs top 4.
No.
With the debts they've got, he needs top 4. They can't afford to be 12th, 14th, 16th.
Okay, but Ange is saying he wins trophies in his second season. He wants to challenge for the title. So what Levy's saying doesn't correlate with what Ange is saying.
I think it's because he wants an attacking manager. It was very simple. That's why he brought in Ange, because he plays attacking football. That was the simplest thing. That's all it was. Nothing more complicated than that. That's why he fit the remit Levy wanted, because the fans were moaning about Conte and Jose saying we're not playing the Spurs way. So what do you go and do? You bring in the cheapest attacking manager you can find, put him in. Ange has bought into whatever Levy's crap is. He's taking it. He's taking all the beatings. Like, he's accepted Gray, Bergval, whoever else he's been offered. He's accepted them. He openly said that to us. So at the end of the day, he's part of the problem. If you're accepting mediocrity, you're part of the problem. I had to put it this way, but
it could well be. Listen, I know Stel wants to respond to my my everyday troll that is Billy. Feel free, Stel. I don't know how far you'll get with him, but give it a go.
Oh no, it's pretty easy because it's just a cold stone lie. Billy's lied. I disagree that young managers because they don't know how to win. Alonso won the Bundesliga unbeaten. The manager of Wigan beat City in a cup final. He was young when he did that. Pep Guardiola, when he began his career, young manager, won everything at Barcelona. You've got Nagelsmann, who won trophies, young manager. Jurgen Klopp, when he started out young, he won trophies. To say young managers don't win trophies is just a cold stone lie.
This guy, still, the problem with this guy can't see past Ange. He's another one. Ange could lose every game between now and January the 1st, and he'll find a way that we were good because of XG or something like that. But
listen, if you ask me, Sava, do I want a young dynamic manager for a project, or do I want an experienced seasoned pro like Pep at his age now, a Jurgen Klopp now, an Ancelotti now to come in and win trophies now? I'll take the experienced pro. But we know we're not going to back those managers. We know we're not going to support those managers. So if we're going to do a project, that buzzword, something that we build, well, then you need someone that's dynamic enough that can evolve during that process, relate to the younger players, integrate them into a team. Basically, someone who's late 30s, early 40s, that kind of range. What Poch was when he came to Spurs, that's what I'm talking about. I believe that's the best formula for Spurs under this ownership.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Is Ange going to be here in the next 2 years, even if he does all right? I don't know.
All of the facets have to marry up for me. And what I mean by that is we've got so many mixed messages. We want a project full of young players. There's the message on one hand. On the other hand, we don't play the young players, right? On the other hand, we want to win now, right? And the manager's telling us we're going to win now. And then it's, oh no, but we're building for the future. I think the problem is none of us actually know what is the remit. I wish somebody would come out from Tottenham Hotspur and say, Ange is going, do you know what I mean? Whether it annoys some of us or not, Ange is here. No matter what happens this year for 3 or 4 years, this is the plan. This is what we're doing. But at the moment, the mixed signals are crazy. Yeah. We signed Timo Werner. No one's going to tell me that's part of any plan. No one's going to tell me that's part of a top manager winning or a young manager building. But what I don't get more than anything, and I want to go back to Ian's points, right? I want to go back to Ian's point about flatlining. If I came on here, guys, right, this time last year, I was checking today, actually. This time last year, I looked at how many subscribers my channel had, right? And it was 6,000 less than it is now. So I know from this time last year, I can say I've grown. If that's going to be the measure of my success, right? I'm not saying it has to be, but I could say, oh, my subscribers have grown. Oh, my view time has grown, right? It's all going that way.
And all the Arsenal fans that are going to be tuning in now as well still.
Exactly, mate. Double whammy, right? If I was sitting here today on the exact same number of subscribers as last year, but still trying to convince you guys, no, I've grown. Show me evidence. It's still saying you're on the exact same number. No. But the long term, that's what I feel like the equivalent of our fans are doing. And no one can ever answer me this. And I want to go to you, Haz, on this. No one can ever answer me this. Whenever I talk about, I never say I hate Ange. I don't hate him. He's not done anything to me. I just don't rate him. Yeah. there's a huge difference, right? This isn't personal to my fellow Greek manager.
I mean, I'm Greek
right?
too, so I guess we're all.
I know we're all Greek in one way or another, mate. People just don't know it, right?
Yeah.
But whenever I say, look, Ange isn't for me, people always straight away, who's going to come in and win things? I'm like, hang on. Before we talk about who's coming in and winning things, can we talk about who's going to come in and not lose 17 games in 39? Can we come in and talk about who's going to win more than 3 away games in a calendar year? Can we talk about who's not going to lose 8 games at home? Fortress White Hart Lane. We've lost 8 games in 2024 at home. We've lost 9 away. I want to get, sorry, Has long-winded. I want to get the manager to come in and do those basics before we start going, well, who's going to come in and win? And I think he's been given more than enough to do that, to not lose that many games. Winning, we can have that debate in a minute, but I think he's been given enough, Has, that this team should not be losing more. West Ham, let's let this sink in. West Ham, who had David Moyes as manager and all these European Cup runs in the last few years, West Ham, in the time when we've lost 8 at home, lost 5 at home. Brighton lost 3 at home. Right? Brentford lost 5 at home. This is embarrassing, Has.
Yeah, well, for me, it comes down to the fact that he's been given 400 million, which is probably the most any manager has at Spurs that I can recollect anyway in the past 10, maybe even 20 years. And whatever he's used with that money or he's accepted with that money, for me, it's more than enough to have us as top 6, at least. I think top 6 is a reasonable thing, I think, and a decent cup runs on top of that, because at the end of the day, you could argue he's got a few of his men. He's got Van der Ven, Solanke. You know, he accepted these wingers, these young wingers or whoever else. I mean, the biggest mistake, obviously, was saying that we signed Werner, which is just diabolical. I still don't know how he's still here. But for me, with the players we have, we should not be in 10th, like, under any circumstances. And his biggest issue, and my biggest issue is Ange's, his tactics. And I go back to more in-game management than we have a debate on the inverted fullbacks in a minute. But for me, it's like you get to 60, 70 minutes, for example, in the Newcastle game, it's 1-1. Rather than just saying, look, we're playing away from home, we're probably not going to win this game. We have a shit record at Newcastle the past 2-3 years and conceded, how many goals? Just drop the line, hold the draw. At least we'll get something. His biggest issue is he doesn't understand, like, this is the Premier League, number one, but you need to understand when to settle for a point. I had to put it this way, to settle for a point. Yeah. Yeah, to settle for a point. Yeah. And he won't. Away from home, our record's fucking shit. I'm sorry, it's fucking shit. And it's like, even Brighton gets 2-2.
F-bombs.
Sorry. Anyway, drop the line, drop the line, and he doesn't drop the line. And it's, for me, it's that the fact he's trying to play the same way home and away. And with the players we've got, we can't do that, number one. And we don't play with a number 6. We're probably the only team in Europe without a number 6. So, I mean, there's so many things that are against him. But he's caused this all himself. That's what I'm trying to say. He's caused them all himself. If
Ange converted 3 of the 5 losses into draws, Brighton was an easy one. He could have adjusted.
Newcastle,
he could have adjusted, right? If he just drew 3 out of the 5 losses, we'd be 3rd in the league table. But it's do or die. It's everything on number 26 on the blackjack table. If it comes in, we've crushed it. If it doesn't come in, we've lost everything. There's no middle ground with this man. It's like insane. It's absolutely bonkers the way he.
Because I could also compare his time at Spurs to Martin Yole, because I thought this was how it was going to be like anyway. So when I watched back, like, we won away to Charlton under Yole. We had a really bad away record at the beginning, actually, but he went and fixed it, because what he did is we started playing a bit more defensively away from home. He realised I couldn't play so attacking, and we just play on the break, even against away teams like Charlton, like the Villas. Obviously, Villas still like half decent back then, but Ange won't do that. He just plays the same way every game. So it's like, it just doesn't work. Hasn't understood that it doesn't work.
But isn't that mad, Ian? Like, when I watch Ange's teams play, I just feel like I'm back in the playground. You know, when you're in the playground, right?
I know
it's a long time to go back, Ian, I know. But when you're in the playground, right, and we all used to follow the football round, you remember, like, everyone just swarmed to the ball. I just feel like when other teams get the ball against us, there is absolutely no shape that's been worked on by Tottenham at all. It is just so wide open. And I'm not accepting the answer as it's who we are, mate. I'm not accepting that as an answer. No top manager has ever left their team this exposed.
Players are not fools. They know if a manager knows his stuff, and they know if fellow players know their stuff and whether they can perform. These players are not playing for him. They do not believe in the system, or a good majority of them don't. You can see it. I mean, who has ever seen a team where the right back and left back push up so far that the creative number 10 midfielder has to come drop back to pick the ball up from the two centre backs? The whole thing's a farce. It's just an absolute nonsense. The tactics are a nonsense. They're just a nonsense.
He's. If you look at our defenders, Van de Ven, Romero, Dragusin, Udogie, and Porro, if you look at them this season, just from a defensive perspective, I think they've all gone backwards. Even Van de Ven this year, the mistakes he's making, you can say, oh, but because he's having to cover for this person or he's getting pulled out of shape. Fine. He's making those mistakes. He's regressing in this system. Ange, for me, has regressed the individual defensive abilities of every defender as individuals. And for me, you are winning nothing when the defense is like that.
They don't play, do they? There's no coaching. There cannot be any coaching because it's all gung ho, isn't it? Still, it's we're going to score more than you.
Yeah, but just the fundamentals of one-on-one defending, or defending as a partnership, or defending as a unit. The amount of the mistakes we make, we make some of the worst mistakes in the Premier League when we can see goals. When we can see goals, it is grassroots, kids level, under 9 stuff. You think, why didn't you clear that? Why didn't you take a first touch? Why have you chipped it into your box? Why didn't you shut him down? Why did you stand there and watch? It's basic stuff. It's like really entry level football.
What pisses off the most? You look at the first Ipswich goal with the bicycle kick. It's like our players were just watching it happen, like us as fans. Like,
what's worrying? What's particularly worrying is last year we were getting caught on the counter.
Crystal Palace goal was the killer. That Crystal Palace goal was unbelievable. Sorry,
why was he playing that pass? I just don't get it.
Well, that was down to messing about at the back, wasn't it?
Van letting it touch, Porro watching the ball, Romero out of position. Yeah. The whole thing.
But what's worrying is that last year we only saw virtually 2 types of goals that we conceded. It was either a set piece, or we lose the ball high up on the edge of their area and we got caught on the counter. This year, it's not those 2. This year, it's one individual error after individual error. So you cure some, and all of a sudden now you've got another one. And so you've got, I don't know whether they're in the red zone because of the intensity of the training and the intensity of pressing, because second half we always go into a situation. Even City, we were 2-0 up against City at home. It was only Villa where second half, and in little bursts, like Brentford, you had West Ham, but then they go, after the hour, it goes. And I just think the training's wrong. Look at the injuries. I mean, Odebear's got this injury. I mean, end of Feb at the earliest is back. 19-year-old kids shouldn't be having these bad. I think it's a hamstring tear. They haven't actually said what it is.
Played like 1-2 games, was it 2-3 games?
It's crazy. I mean, we've had 13 injuries. Now, it may be with players who are not in the first 11, but we shouldn't. We've had more injuries up to last week than any other Premier League club this season.
Yeah, but that's very misleading, isn't it? When you actually see that, it's very misleading because when they add into that Odeber's not a first, like, do you know what I mean? That's not a first team. Like Richarlison, he's not in our first team. I think there's a lot of players.
It's not to do with training, with the training, with the intensity, with the press, the whole thing, because it's literally gung ho, attack. You know, at no time do they actually drop back 10 yards, take their time, take it easy, not take the foot off the pedal. That's not what I'm saying. But slow it down a little bit. Don't go gung ho the whole time.
Ian, if you when you do your UEFA B in this country, right, they teach you the quickest way to go, the quickest way to score a goal is a long pass forward.
Yeah,
that is the quickest way to go. There's no quick way of getting the ball upfield. A long pass forward, but that's got to be on. So ideally, everyone's camped in your box. They've got a set piece. You leave a man up high. You win the ball, right, send it, go. But you've got to have the right player up there and maybe some supporting runners. If you can't do that, then it's a transitional play where the team's up, they're pressed high, but they've got players on the halfway line a bit deeper. Right, can you get the ball out wide and then play the transitional game? So it's almost like a medium range pass. Other than that, if the team's backed off, play it out from the back and try and draw them in and then find the pockets in behind. So they're the three phases of getting the ball up the field: a long ball, a transitional mid pass, or playing it out from the back. Any team that presses Spurs, we do not know how to play out. We don't look for that long ball. I'll give you a great example. Do you remember when we beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge 3-1 quite a while back?
With the Dele Alli goal with the ball from Ericsson. Yeah.
God, wasn't Ian 15 at the time when that happened? And it when
he was 15, he had curly hair, he had a fashionable jumper, right? But that one long ball forward, Dele Alli, one touch, second finish, right? Yeah. You do not see Spurs look for that ever.
No.
So this is my issue with Ange. It's very one-dimensional. Sometimes we play a transitional game. We actually look better at that. But when a team presses us with aggression or they really come at us with intensity, we don't have a clue. We are not coached or trained for it. And I can see it. We literally say, right, just keep playing out from the back. The defense looks completely disorganized. The midfield goes missing, out of shape, pulled to pieces. And I look at it and I sit there just from a fundamental coaching perspective. I say, why aren't we trying a different route forward? And they don't do it. They don't.
We're not direct. We're not direct ever.
This is why, for me, I'm not convinced by Ange. I'm not.
What's crazy? What's crazy is Solanke is perfect as a target man, and he's got pace.
Yeah, that's what bothers me as well.
So you could play a long ball to him, Ian, to bring it, or you can hit the channels for him to go down.
Look at every corner. Look at every corner against us. You will never see us leave a man up high. They all come back. No one just says, right, I'm going to stay on the halfway line in case that ball gets sent. They all come back.
Look, just quickly, I wanted to show you this, guys. I did bring this up on one of my other shows. And you can see here, it's quite low, and I've made my club top of that table in red, Arsenal. You can see this is how frequently teams go long with their goal kicks, and they've said long is plus 40 meters. We're the only club that apparently have 0%. Now, listen, I'm not going to sit here and condone I want my team to play the ball out, but this goes into a larger issue for me, chaps. This goes into the issue of kind of what Stel was saying just there, but losing games. You're losing games. You're desperate for a goal. When do Spurs throw the kitchen sink? When do Spurs, the old school, everyone get up there, throw a centre half in the box. Yeah. We saw it at Palace. Solanke and Richarlison are 6'3" and 6'4". I'm making that up. They might be both 6'3" or whatever. Both 6'3" plus, right? You've got both of them on the pitch. There's 7, 8, 9 minutes of injury time, if I remember. 2 minutes to go. Vicario to Van der Ven, to Romero,
Oh,
to Vicario, and I'm like, what, guys? We need a goal. This isn't the time to be. But people go, yeah, but look at the possession stats. Look how many passes we completed. Yes, across our own back four. Where is the direct ball? And I'm not saying, guys, please, because I know what people in the chat will say, right? I'm not asking that Vicario goes long with every goal kick like back in the 90s. But just every now and then when he gets the ball, can't he bypass the press, dink it over the top and let Spurs try and win the knockdown? And we don't do anything. We try and pass out, even in games where we're getting caught. Look at the Galatasaray game. How many times did between Forster, Davis and Dragoshin, did they need to be caught trying to play it out the back? And they still kept doing it. We don't learn, guys. And the manager never changes it. Ever.
No.
He's inflexible, Sava. It's reading the game, right? No one wants us to play long ball football. But if the other team have pushed up and we've got a man there and that ball is on, send it. If the pass is on, send it. That's the point. Is you look at Pep Guardiola. He plays out from the back. They've got brilliant players that can do it. They build up the play. They're quick. They're intensive. But once in a while, they'll hit you on a counter. Once in a while, they see Haaland on the halfway line. Send it. He'll bulldozer through them and he'll get a goal. You've got to have different types of ammunition in your locker and say, right, deploy this one now. Deploy that one now. This is how we're mainly going to fight the war. But once in a while, let's drop this in there. Let's drop that one. With us, that chart you showed proves we're just not ready to try that kind of a ball or that type of an attack. And teams, they do their homework and think, if we just press the hell out of them, and if we just put it on them, they won't have another way. We might pull this off. And they do. And they put
Ipswich came to White Hart Lane. Ipswich came to White Hart Lane, and Leif Davis, who I thought was sensational for them, the left wing back, had a field day against Porro. He had a field day. And I'm not blaming Porro, but I say this every week. Still, you must be bored of hearing me say this. If I'm the opposition manager playing against Tottenham Hotspur all week in training, all I'm doing is saying, when we are on the transition, get the ball in early and behind. Whether that's down the channels or down the centre, get it in early and behind and let the quick players do the damage. But Ange doesn't ever cut it out. And what I don't understand, this is the biggest issue for me, chaps. I've never known a manager with so many bad results this protected. This guy is protected to the point where you would think that he's coming off the back of a treble-winning season, right? You would think he'd won the treble, and we're all being knee-jerk. Nothing's changed in a calendar year. Nothing's improved at all, and we're all sitting there going, "Oh, but in Arteta's first 50 games, what on earth has that got to do with a slice of bread? What on?" I'm just baffled.
I have a real big issue with that argument, Sava, because Arteta was in his first job in his career as a full-time manager, right? Or coach, whatever we want to call it nowadays. And just been in football for 20 years, yeah? It's not like you're putting in someone who's like fresh, like the Brighton manager even, who's like 31. He's, done a bit. But Ange has 20 years of experience I keep hearing behind him. Yet he has the most excuses out of any Spurs manager I've known since I've been alive. It's madness.
I've never known it.
For me, they're playing out the back. I can tell the players are frustrated by it themselves because in the Ipswich game, I noticed something. And obviously, Romero has been good this season, by the way. But I think he got fed up with playing it out the back and just play the ball long. I think even they're getting fed up of the football.
Well, he looks like...
They don't believe in it. They don't believe in it. Can I just say that?
I wouldn't either. If I was a player personally, I wouldn't either because all this possession around the back, you're not actually progressing the ball. Like we're just passing it across the we always end up back where we were. And then it's like we don't play with a purpose. That's what I'm trying to get to. We don't play with a purpose, and that's the problem. There's no move where this is the quickest way to the goal. It's all just
that's right. What he's trying to do is he's trying to start from one end of the pitch and pass right the way through to the other end of the pitch. Because you see the sort of goals that we score with the ball across the box. That is the hardest type of goal to score. So he's putting those players under such pressure. Take the Palace goal. Vicario's played it to Romero, I think. Romero's on the ball. Basuma hasn't made that run. The other side of I think it was Mateta, to get the ball. Romero's looked up. There's nobody. So he's had to put the ball across to Van de Ven. The way round that is Vicario doesn't give it to him in the first place. Because I was taught that when you're on the ball, you should have 2 or 3 options every single time to pass to. Different angles, all the time. And Romero had nobody. So forget it. It's not working. The ball went across. Mickey lost it. Ball ended up in the back of the net.
Ian, can we also agree? Well, you don't have to agree, but can I say?
Please agree. Just agree, Ian. No matter if you agree or not, just agree with him.
Way too many fans, and even to this day, they're still doing it. Overhyped the vast majority of these players.
Oh, right? For sure.
They have so overhyped our midfield. They've so overhyped our defenders. They've so overhyped the goalie. The attacking lineup is, honestly, it's one of the most dullest, uninspiring forward lines I've seen at Spurs in 20 years. There's not one forward player right now that I look at in current form and say, man, what a player. Not one. Not a single one. None of them. No. And I've never said that before. I've never said... Even last season, the year before, so we say we had Kane. Son still had some form. Now Son's form dipped. You look at this lineup, you think, none of them are worthy of wearing a Spurs shirt.
Look how we've regret 7 years. In 7 years since the season when Chelsea won the league, we had 86 points. Look how it's dropped. You wouldn't have any of our players. Obviously, there's Son is there, but aside from Son, you wouldn't have any of the other 10 players that would displace any of the 10 in that team.
Ian, you are bang on. I feel like you're copying this maybe as something I said in the chat earlier in the week. Just kidding. Mate, you're bang on. If you look at that Poch team, right? If you look at that Poch team and you look at this 11 now, not one of these, even this version of Son, not one of these gets in that 11.
No.
Right? So when people want to talk to me about a rebuild, like, what are we doing here? Stelly's bang on. Listen, I love Spurs. I've always loved Spurs. But we've always, even in the darkest days, even when, remember when we had to get Klinsmann back for about 6 months or 5 months to save us from relegation, even then you had a Jurgen. Ginola was still in the team. And it was, God, they made it worthwhile today. Now when I watch Spurs, when we're on it in patches, we're on it as a team. That's good. But there's no player there where I go, whoa. You know, like these people who do these videos about Kulu. Kulu's a good footballer. But when Kulu gets the ball, I don't ever go, oh my God, did you... Oh my... You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't get the Van der Vaart.
We don't have any world-class players. That's why. We have no world-clalas players.
Listen, we need to get Archie in, mate. That's what we need to do.
Oh, God.
We need Archie in midfield. He'll be the wow factor.
I'd love to see him. Do you know what? None of those... He deserves a crack. When you look at the midfield players and their inconsistency, they've got to get him in. He deserves a chance. Now throw him in. Because the others, I'm sorry, they're not doing it. They're not doing it.
We'll get to our daily hour Archie Gray conversation a little bit later. Don't worry about that.
If I said to you lot 2 years ago, here's a Spurs shirt, who do you want? Whose name do you want on the back? You'd say Kane. If you said 4 or 5 years ago, and you say Dembele. If you said before that Modric, Bale, right? Right now, if I said, who do you want on the back of your shirt? I'd leave it blank. I would honestly leave it blank. There's not one name I want to walk around on the back of my shirt right now that I would say.
At it like this.
Yeah.
I look at it like this. If I want to be nostalgic, right? And I want to sit there tonight, I can't sleep, and I think I want to go watch a compilation of an old Spurs player. I'm going to go, let me type in Gareth Bale compilation. Let me type in Jermaine Defoe's 5 goals against Wigan. Let me type in Ginola. You get the message, right?
Yeah.
Right now, there's no one where I think, I just love watching this guy. Do you know what I mean? There's no one where I think, I'd love to watch a compilation of this guy. It's all very, I don't know, it just feels a bit meh. For a so-called attacking manager who wants his team to play really good football, I don't think we bought really good footballers.
There's no superstars. There's no stars in this team. Has just said it about 5 minutes ago. We don't have a star. We don't have anyone that gets you off the, on the edge of your seat. There's no one that you say, do you know what? Fucking yeah, man, class. Go on. You don't. But once in a while, you get a little something from Van der Ven where he runs forward quickly with the ball and outpaces everyone and lays off a ball. Once in a while, Maddison does something a little bit tasty, but it's so infrequent. It's not every week. Kane did something, Son did something, Dembele did something, Modric, Van der Vaart. Yeah. But they did something. You thought, freaking hell, man, this player is carrying us. Yeah. Now it's who's gonna raise the levels here? Who's lifting this team when we're in trouble? And there's
Maz is lifting this team. Maz is lifting us.
He's the problem.
Maz is the problem.
Maz is going to get the job with Ryan Mason next when Ange goes.
I'll take it.
Just before I bring Maz in, I've had a super chat sitting here for about 20 minutes, 40 minutes. My bad. Ethan, big up, always very, very generous. This is how long ago we were talking about rebuilds. He said, a rebuild to me is a squad overhaul, and currently it's only Davis and Werner considered Deadwood. Is the rebuild not complete? I tell you what, he's got a great point here. When we talk about a rebuild, if you look at the squad from 3 years ago to today, who's still there?
It's a bad rebuild.
Yeah. And again, I'll start off with Maz. Maz, we're just saying that from big up Ethan, always very generous. Thank you, mate. I love your takes and thank you very much for that. I really do appreciate it. By the way, really crap tonight on the likes. 122 likes, 407 of you in the house at the moment. So please do smash that button. Maz, we were saying from the old stadium, yeah, and from the old stadium, you look at that team Poch had for the last few years of that old stadium. The stadium apparently where we couldn't attract players because of money, and we had to build this new one. Since then, have we bought anything that gets you excited? And keep it clean. But have we bought any player that you've seen in a Spurs shirt and gone, yeah, this makes me want to. Do you know what? Let me put it this way. When Spurs were a bang average team, finishing 11th, 12th, 13th every season, I couldn't wait to get to White Hart Lane. I wanted to watch Ginola.
Funnily enough, there is one player, and it's when Jose brought back Bale on loan, because there was always that hope that we'll see something, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously his time there, he was unfit and he didn't play as much, but he still had a couple of games where he done well. He had a few good games, and whilst he wasn't the Bale of old, you could just tell he had quality, and he got 16 goals in the end of it. 16 goals from a player that was unfit and didn't play very much. So that was the only player after going into the new stadium that I genuinely was excited about, purely based off old memories of him. But since then, no, you're right. We haven't bought anyone of significance. I mean, Maddison, I was pleased with because his stats look good, and I was hopeful that he could take a step on at Spurs. And when he first came, those first 10 games, I was saying quite a lot. I didn't realise Maddison was that good, but I was wrong. Well, I guess there's still time to be proven right that he's a good player, but I think that he's another player under Ange that's regressed. Now I know our friend Wayne, he will say, no, what you're seeing is the hot and cold Maddison that we've always seen. And maybe that's true, but I do feel that we have such a poor manager with such poor tactics that every player on that pitch has regressed. Someone in the comments said Perisic. I was sort of excited for Perisic. Not excited. I don't know if that's the right word, but I was sort of happy that we got him, because I thought Perisic is a really good.
if it was a decade earlier, Maz, I might have been really excited.
Yeah, I share your sentiment. I mean, I was happy that we were bringing in someone who was a leader who knew how to win.
Yeah.
And even him, he didn't play amazing for us, and you could argue that the team around Perisic was just not up to the quality probably needed to get the best out of him. But even in a poor side, he still, I think, had the most assists, I think, in our team at that time. And he's still, his crossing stats were actually very, very good. So to answer your question, no, but there was a few, a couple of rare occasions where I thought, oh, okay, yeah, that seems half decent, but not excited, not a Ginola level of excitement, not a Klinsmann level of excitement, nothing like that, not a Van der Vaart level of excitement.
Can I just want to say something. Maz, I completely agree with you. Listen, I was really happy, and I am happy with the James Maddison signing. For me, the Leicester City, me and Wayne Holland have this debate all the time. The Leicester City fans can say whatever they want about him, up and down, up and down. His stats before he joined Tottenham were brilliant. Whichever way we want to look at it, the man was averaging a goal or assist every other game. So he was averaging 19 goal contributions a season from attacking midfield. That's bloody brilliant.
Yeah.
He comes to Spurs, and this manager can't get that out of him. Now that tells me there's something wrong with the management, because if he's able to do that again, no offense, and Leicester, he was in the Leicester team that won the FA Cup, blah, blah, but buy a playmaker. I've got a crazy idea, Maz. Let's make him a playmaker. I don't know, I don't know if it's just me. Buy the player, play the playmaker, because for years since Eriksen left, we all said, didn't we? Everyone I didn't know Ian then, but we all said in this panel, we haven't replaced Eriksen. We have not got a playmaker. We then get Maddison, who gets 20 goal contributions a season every year in the league. And for some reason, we can't seem to make it work for him in this crazy formation, man.
Well, we were joking, weren't we, in our WhatsApp group? We were saying, I said, I'll be manager. And then I sent a voice message, taking the piss, saying, I'll tell you what I would do as a manager. I'll start by playing the players in their positions. And I'm deadly serious about that. If we actually played the players in their positions and gave them tactics that didn't stifle the players, then I would expect that they would do better. And I know we've discussed this to death, but when you have overlapping fullbacks or inverted fullbacks that all decide to go into the positions that your number 9 and your number 10 want to go into, and then we wonder why, the other team put, 2 banks or 4 behind the ball and just effectively just crowd us out and counter attack us. Then, well, what do we expect? And I have been harsh on Maddison, and I do expect a lot from him. And I expect a lot from him not because I think he's a bad player. I think he's a very good player. I just expect a lot from him because he's good. So I want him to do more. And I get frustrated that he's not doing more. Whereas I think you've changed my mind, Sava, in terms of Romero. I don't think he's as good as what we said he was, or he just doesn't want to play. It's either one of those things. It's either not as good as we thought it was, or he just does not want to play for Ange and Tottenham anymore. It could be both. It could be, but my logic and reason tells me if a player can win the World Cup and a couple of Copa Americas, right, and constantly gets picked for the international team, and was good previously, it's probably Tottenham and it's probably the manager. So hey ho.
And again, even like Wayne and I, big up Wayne. I love Wayne. We had this debate for years about Maddison, but he's right. I see Spurs fans all the time saying, "Oh, but he's running into midfield." I don't want my playmaker doing what my 2 centre midfielders are doing. I don't want him in there. I don't want my playmaker picking up the ball. You don't see Kevin De Bruyne coming to the halfway line to pick the ball up. Someone gets Kevin De Bruyne the football. Let him do the last third. That is where playmakers do their thing. And we've got the only playmaker in the league who isn't allowed to play as a
Yeah,
playmaker.
Sava, here's another. You're bang on with this point, and I think we brought it up a couple of weeks ago. Back in the day, right, when we had George Graham, he had David Ginola, right? Even George Graham realised, I ain't going to have Ginola defending in the penalty box because, one, he can't header, right? And two, let's be honest, he can't tackle either. And three, he hasn't got that much stamina to be running up and down the pitch, right? He was, for how fit he was as a human specimen, I don't think his stamina was like phenomenal, right? So what did he do? He left him up the field, right? Every corner kick, he was
in bed.
Probably, right? Now, with you're right, with Ange, why do we want Maddison and Son as an example, right? Both of which are not very good at tackling, right? Or defensive duties. Why do we want them to be running all the way back to defend? We don't want them to be doing that. So as you aptly said, De Bruyne doesn't do it. Now, there's no doubt that Pep's teams, they'll put a shift in. They'll do what they're meant to do. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in a Pep team. But we're just not. I just think the tactics are just so poor. They're really poor. And we've had enough games now, and enough of a trend happening throughout all of those games to say, yeah, the tactics really are wrong. And I'm not going to mention the show or the names, but when I'm hearing people saying, oh, we've improved or our players are really good, based off what? What, one odd game here and there? Based off what? And that's the danger of having an echo chamber. And people will say, but you guys are an echo chamber. No, we're not, because we have arguments with each other every bloody show. Not only do we have arguments with each other every show, we argue out of the shows as well.
Matt,
Anyway.
do you not think that these players are better than what they're showing?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
If you had, say for argument's sake, I mean, it's all gone very quiet on the old Stabley front, hasn't it? And I was hoping that would go through and we get Eddie Howe, because I know I've read that he's unsettled and Mourinho's after the Newcastle job if Howe goes, according to Mourinho. So, but for me, if Eddie Howe, say, just use him as an example, Iriola, Thomas Frank, any of those three. Let's use three managers from the Premier League who know the league, which is another thing that if we had somebody running the football side, they would bring a manager in who could adapt to this league, or preferably bring a good manager in who knew the league. But just say for argument's sake, Eddie Howe came in, he would get them set up properly. Newcastle were a mess. They were bottom of the table when he joined. I remember, I think his first game, Spurs won up there, didn't they? 3-2, I think, in his first game. But, you could see even after a week's training, we just about won that game. And 18 months later, he's got Newcastle into the Champions League. He would come in, you would see a proper formation. You'd see players trained defensively. If Porro's not doing it, he brings Spence in. Ange has his favourites.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Can I just say something?
I do think, though. I think what we've got to be careful with. Sorry, Haz. Sorry. I think what we've got to be careful with, though, when we say, Thomas Frank or Eddie Howe and stuff like that, is that for me, I want to see progression beyond Poch. I'm not happy with what's happened in the last 5 years, or I'm not happy with the last 24 years, but I want to see us progress from Poch, because we sacked Poch to bring in Jose to take that next step, supposedly, right? But that's what we all wanted. It never happened. So for me, we're still saying, okay, well, let's bring in a young manager that can work well under the regime and stuff like that. Yeah, yes, I get it. I understand. And I'm sure that would be quite good. But I want someone who's going to challenge the board and how we run the club. if Ange did that, I know it's not. But well, let's say someone like De Zerbi, right? He was quite forthright in his way he wanted to do things, right? So I don't know. I guess I don't want to puppet like Ange. That's all I'm saying.
I hear you, but for me, when I look at, I want to go back to the bit that Ian the point he made about Eddie Howe. And again, it's not about, oh my God, let's all get Eddie Howe. But Ian's right. When Eddie Howe turned up at Newcastle, they were bottom. They were the bookies' favourites to get relegated. I think they had something like they hadn't won in their first 11 or their first 13 games, something ridiculous. Yeah. They were the favourites to go down. And you know why I give him maximum credit? Everyone makes out like he went in there and just bought a brand new team and got them into the Champions League. When you actually look at the number of players that man upskilled immediately, and you can go through them. You look at what he did with Fabian Schär. He was a calamity. Everyone was laughing at Fabian Schär. Fabian Schär was brilliant from the moment Eddie Howe came in. Willock. We turned our nose up Willock. He had a really good year under Howe. He turned Joe Linton from a failed striker to a powerful midfielder, right? He got Almiron. Remember Almiron had that season where he just couldn't stop scoring goals, right? All of these players, Longstaff.
Botman he got a shift out of as well.
Dan Burn? I mean, who rated Dan Burn at Brighton?
Well, he bought Dan Burn, didn't he? But the point is, he took the next season, I think something like 6 of that 11 that got Champions League were from when he took over. It was coaching, developing. I say this now. Name me one player that Ange has coached to be better.
No one.
Who has visibly, when you go, God, look at that, is night and day from last year.
Maybe
there isn't anyone.
Potts
did it.
Walker. Last season, he put him on the right most of the season.
Has your mic? Is that my mic or has his?
No,
has his mic.
Has speak again, please.
Oh, wait, hey, can you hear me now?
Yes.
No, your mic's gone, man. Your mic's gone. You have to log out and come back in. Like in Poch's first year, when people say, guys, still, I'll come to you on this. You know when people say it's only been 18 months. In Poch's first year, in 18 months, he had sorted out all this crap. In this time, bearing in mind, Poch didn't have 14, 16 new signings. Poch made an 11 with 7 that were at the club already and coached them into being a quality team because, you know what? Funnily enough, everyone was playing in their position. No one was being asked to do anything ridiculous. There was no stupid high line. There was no inverted fullbacks. He had men protecting the back four. I say men because Wanyama and Dembele were proper men. He had a playmaker in Christian Eriksen who was actually allowed to get on the ball and play make. Right? And then you had the youthfulness at the time of Kane, Son, and Dele Alli. This guy, in a year and a half, I've not seen anything improve. Like, nothing has improved across the board. I just don't know what's going on. And he's loved. He is absolutely loved still. And I don't get it.
I don't rate Ange. It's not for me. I've seen enough to say that as soon as he accepted Werner, for me, it was all over. Because that was the confirmation, nothing's changed. And then, the players that followed after, Bergvall, Gray, Yang, and all this, I'm like, these players need time. We don't even know if they're going to be good. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But they're not the answer right now. We need answers now. This year, he's proven inept tactically. For every change he makes at half-time to beat West Ham, he fails to make changes to hold on to a 2-0 lead at Brighton. So you can't sit there saying, oh, but he does adapt. Well, he's very inconsistent with it. So, what I find the hardest thing to accept, and fans are showing all sorts of love for a manager, is we are so inconsistent. It's unbelievable. We are so inconsistently up and down, up and down. And it just goes to show our fans are very, very easily pleased. They're
the most easily pleased. The most easily pleased. We'll sit here and love Ange, but Poch, who cannot. Sorry, still finish what you're saying. I want to bring up some stats. You know me. I love a stat. I
mean, Billy says Poch ended up winning nothing. Poch went 2 years without any signings. Poch never got £300 million.
But that's a legitimate criticism, though. I think we need to be careful a little bit, though. Still, look, Poch was amazing. He's one of my favourite ever managers. All your points you said in defence of him, he's correct, right? And I agree with that. But I don't think it's unfair to not also say with the team he had, it was a golden opportunity for us to win something, right? And I think that's a fair criticism.
It is, but 18 months in, look what Poch had done. Look what Ange has not done.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying
that's where I'm at with it.
Listen, we can criticise every manager. Like Pep losing the Champions League final to Chelsea, he should never have lost that, but he made mistakes. The point I'm making about Poch is he had the smallest budget of any manager out of him, Conte, Mourinho, and Ange, if you look at the time they were in the job. Yeah. He had the lowest wage bill. If you look at us, money spent wages, Spurs should have been 7th. He had us 2nd and in a Champions League final.
I know, mate. I agree with you. I'm not trying to denigrate him. I'm just saying that it's okay for people to say he didn't, and he didn't.
But we're talking about developing players, aren't we? No one's sat here and we're not judging. I derailed it. Sorry. No. It's cool. It's good. We love a row.
Pochettino came to a club where Danny Rose and Kyle Walker were all right. He made them 2 of the best fullbacks in the league.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
Alderweireld and Vertonghen, he made them into the best centre-back partnership I've ever seen at Spurs anyway.
This is what I was going to say. He developed the best partnership we've seen at Spurs in 20 years at the back. Our midfield was solid. Wanyama, Dembele, Ericsson, they all progressed under Ange. All of them got better. And then, yes, Sherwood gave Kane the break, but Poch developed him into the player he became and the partnership with Son. So I just look at Poch, what he was given and what he did with it. I think he squeezed every bit of juice out of the fruit he was given. Could he have done a bit better? Of course he could have. Absolutely.
Do we think, though?
When I look at this team now, no one's going to tell me that Romero, Udogie and Porro and Dragusin are this bad at defending.
Yeah, that's true. But do we think, though?
That midfield is capable of far more if structurally set up differently and Maddison was played to his strengths. The front line's the front line. I don't expect anything from the front line, right? But the rest, another manager gets more out of it.
I think, though, the way that we do recruitment now versus the way it was done in the past is dramatically worse now than what it was in the past. So if we've got a young... Sorry?
But what about... Listen, but if you look at it, right? Poch walked into Walker and Rose, right? And just walked into Porro and Udogie.
No. So the angle I'm coming from, Sava, is if we get rid of Ange and we bring in a young coach, I'm not sure they can replicate what Poch did, because Poch had he had Rose, Walker, Vertonghen there. You know, that's a nucleus of an amazing back line. We didn't know at the time, but he made them into that, right? And
how do we know now? How do we know that we haven't got the devil's advocate, Maz, right? I know everyone's saying you want a row, so let's have a row. Look, devil's advocate, right? This is when I look at the 3 of the back 4 that Poch built was there, right? The only one that wasn't was Toby Alderweireld. You could say the same with Ange right now. Porro, Udogie, and Romero were all there. So he's brought in Van der Ven, Poch has brought in Alderweireld, right? Then you look at the midfield, right? The players that we've got, he's had money. It's not like Ange hasn't had the money to buy somebody into those areas. he's walked into Son. All right, it's not the same Son that we had then, but Poch again progressed him and brought him through. And I'm not saying it has to be like for like. It's not that the next manager has to come in and do what Poch did, but do we not deserve a manager that comes in and coaches? Do we not deserve a manager that comes in and within 3 months we go, God, look how much better Udogie is at defending, just for example. Jesus, look how there's hardly any mistakes in that back line. Don't we deserve that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We deserve a coach that isn't Ryan Mason, who was here during the Conte, Mourinho, Stellini, and now the Ange era. Why is Ryan Mason part of this coaching team? What is this nostalgic, emotional attachment to mediocrity in the ranks of our coaches? Poch had his own team, and they.
Can you hear me all right? By the way, can you hear me all right now? Okay.
You got to look at the team. Angela said, like Jedinak. What are we doing here?
But again, Ange accepted Mason. Remember, he said he wasn't going to bring his own
It's
men.
his team. It's his team.
Yeah,
it's his team.
Let me change up. Let me change it up slightly. Right, this is my concern. All right, and I messaged you guys this in the WhatsApp group. I'm going to show this on the screen. Okay, this is Tottenham Hotspur's seasons in the Premier League. This is my worry for all of, and I'll explain this in a minute. For all of, Ange is a brilliant coach. Look how much better we are. Everything's great. Oh my God, Van der Ven and Romero are the best partnership in the league. Saliba and Gabriel would get nowhere near it. And Porro's amazing. And Udogie. If you have a look at the column, where you see the finishes, 6th, 5th, 3rd, all of that, go 2 to the left. That's how many goals are conceded, right? So you can see at the bottom, Spurs conceded 61 goals under Ange in his first season. 61. Now, the year before, all right, not a great year. And we could talk about Stellini and Mason coming at the end. But in that year that we conceded 63 there, other than Romero, our defensive options were Longley, Dyer, Sanchez, Davis, Sessegnon, Emerson Royale, right? This is what we were dealing with. But look above all the seasons above that, right? 40 conceded, right? 40 in that 40 season. That was Conte's first full year. 40, right? 45 the year before. 47, 39, 36, 26 under Poch, 35 in Poch's second year, right? 53 in his first, 51. Even if I go up, guys, so can you see my cursor?
Yeah.
So 51, 46, 41, 46, 41, 45. You have to go all the way back to one day Ramos and the year we won the cup, right? To the amount of goals we concede under this manager. So we can't defend. He doesn't upskill players. We've lost 17 in 39. What does this manager do well? What is he doing well that makes fans turn around and say, oh, I don't want to change managers? What does he do? This Ellie. Conte managed to concede 40 goals with Dyer, Davis, Emerson and Sanchez. This guy's got Van der Ven and Romero. I'm told they're amazing. And we conceded 61.
It's a system. It's a system. Yeah, it's funny. I'm seeing lots of quotes about David Pleat. What Pleat was told about Poch was from the club. Certainly wasn't what I've heard. That Poch didn't want players. I think. Hi James.
That's how we doing.
Come to join the Happy Clappers.
100%. Way too negative on this show.
The Angian army are here. Here they are. The Angian army.
Lunatics.
And so lost my train of thoughts about David Pleats.
I have that effect, Ian.
Pleat was saying about when I asked him at the Trust book signing evening about what he thought of Ange's system. He just said, well, it leaves Romero and Van de Ven an awful lot to do, covering the whole width of the pitch. He didn't need to say any more. You could tell him, you could tell what he thought of it in what he said. It's just negative. You can't. It's when you look at Longley, Sanchez, Davis, Dyer, and then you look at Porro, Udogie, Van de Ven with Romero, who's the one player that was in both teams. You look at it and you think to yourself, they've got to be at least 15 goals better off. Got to be. These players are so much better than the players 2 years ago or the previous year, and they're not. We were 2 goals better off, I think. Why? Because it's wide open. The system's wrong. Now, he had last season as not a free hit, but he's come into the Premier League and he's learning. And you think to yourself, there comes a point where at some stage he's got to learn, he's got to look at it and think to himself, do you know what? My system's been great in the other 3 leagues, but this is several levels up. The coaches are that much cuter. The players are that much better. They're quicker, but the other coaches and players smell a weakness. They see the weakness much quicker. This isn't working. I've got to adapt slightly. But he hasn't done that.
Problem is, Ian, is the 2 inverted fullbacks cause the most problem. I was trying to land.
I don't buy this.
Before I was it happened. Because the Maddison thing, for me, you look at Udogie's positioning on the pitch, it actually stops the position that Maddison's strongest at, that inside left channel, yeah? And it's stopping Son as well, because when he insists on inverting the fullbacks, you're stopping Son's strength as well off the left-hand side. Plus, as a consequence of inverting the fullbacks, that goal we conceded against Palace, a normal fullback might be on the right, and so Red Romero has to play it across, he gets to play it on the right. And
there's no one there.
Problems.
Guys,
and then obviously by consequence you've got 2 at the back because they don't play defensive. Plus they're not very good defensively anyway. And when they run back manically, they're walking in a very awkward way to get back, because it's not like they're playing as a normal fullback where they walk running straight back. They have to go for some weird position to get back like manic. And the inverted fullbacks literally messes everything up.
Can I just answer Billy? Because Billy sent a post before 10-15 minutes ago about we're 3 points off third, we're the highest goal scorers. Can you see now, Billy?
We're closer to relegation than first, Billy. Wake up.
The whole thing.
You're not bad.
Yes, we've scored goals. We've scored 3s and 4s in several games, which is why. Listen, it's not bemoaning it. 22 goals is good going in 11 games. 2 a game.
Closer to relegation, Ian.
Correct. You can't complain. But the overlying situation is that the system's wrong. Players are played in the wrong positions. We're still wide open. We flatlined for 12 months. So how can it be better?
Well, just quickly, still, just really, really quickly. Again,
I do want to say I want to challenge something Ian said, but yeah.
Just 1 second. Again, if we look at this, guys, this is what they call a Premier League table. This shows where everybody is. I jest, of course. When you look at this, I want your eyes to be drawn to the right-hand side with the wins, draws, and losses. Look at that top 13, right? We're the only team in the last 6 games that have lost 3, right? We keep saying everyone's inconsistent. We're the only ones in that top 13. Now, that's 13. Let's go down a bit, shall we? Let's go down a little bit. Let's see the rest of the league. Tottenham are... Who else has lost 3 games? Ipswich. They've lost 3 of their last 6. They got promoted. Everton have only lost 1 of their last 6. Leicester City are the only other team outside of the bottom 3 that have lost 50% of their last 6 games. We could do this all day long. Have a look at the defeat column in general. The defeat column, for anyone that doesn't know where the defeat column is, it is there. The loss column, again, look at that defeat column. Everybody else, you have to go with the only team in the top half of the table. No one's even got 4. Look, 5. Everyone else 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1. How how have we got the nerve, guys, to say that things are getting better when we lose this sheer volume of games? We've lost as many games, right? We have lost as many games. Let's put this in perspective, right? As West Ham, who I'm told are absolutely shit, Leicester City, who got promoted last year, Everton, who are one of the favourites to get relegated, Ipswich Town, who came up, have lost the same amount of games as us, and Crystal Palace, who are in a relegation zone, have lost one more game. That is diabolical.
Sava, Ian said,
still. I'm so
it is diabolical. This manager's a joke. Ian said he's learning, right? I don't buy that.
What I said was you would think he would have learned, but he hasn't.
Ian, he shouldn't have to learn, right? He shouldn't have to learn. This show's called Spurs Fans Are Buzzword Crazy. This is another kind of buzzword or buzzwords I've heard fans on other shows say when they're trying to defend this guy. He's learning. Rubbish. Absolute rubbish. I can walk into a team, give me a couple of games, let me observe, I know what needs to be done. I will look at it as a coach and say, I know what needs to be done here. Now, he's had a year and a half, 300 million, and he still doesn't get it. He's out of his depth. Herzler, Maresca, Arne Slot, first time in the Premier League. Are they learning? Do they need time? Because they seem to have sussed it out pretty quick. They are doing better than us with less money spent, and they do not do what I see Ange do. This manager up here has got one way and he's stubborn with it. That's what's happening at Spurs. This whole thing of he needs time to learn. No, he's not young. This isn't his first rodeo. He's got 25 years of experience, this guy. Listen, you don't need to learn how to manage the Premier League. You watch it, you get it.
First 10 games.
I disagree, by the way.
After first 10 games. Hang on, still, after the first 10 games, he's won the manager of the month 3 times. We're top of the table with 26 out of 30. He's turning around, he's sitting there after we've won 2-0 at Palace on that Friday night thinking, do you know what? Japan, Australia, Scotland, my football was working. And that's why I say that by the end of the season, when he's seen the tail off, he should have learned this is not working, and he should have adapted, and he should have changed the style, even if it meant changing the type of players that he wanted to bring in. Because
those first 10 games consisted of 60% teams that were in a relegation fight. Those 10 games, we narrowly won some of them. We needed the 98th minute to beat relegated Sheffield United at home, right?
We did, but it's all about the results. It's all about the results.
Absolutely. But those first 10 games to me were just the honeymoon period. It was that the players were trying harder because they wanted to impress. Fans were much more up for it. And Ange got some decent draws. He didn't have any tough games in there. The only tough game that I felt he had to deal with in the first 10 was Arsenal away, where we did really, really well. Other than that, I don't think we had any really tough games.
How about Liverpool at home? Was that tough?
That was the biggest VAR scandal in history.
I know.
That was an absolute VAR scandal. They went 1-0
up. Still a tough game, though, isn't it?
He's onside by 2 meters.
Yes.
And then
still a tough game.
Now is
Geezer, that game. Geezer.
Geezer. You say Geezer? What Geezer?
Geezer.
I'll counter that by saying that Liverpool's goal was scored from a free kick, and Udogie didn't touch the bloke. It was right in front of me, and the guy dived. So that should never have stood. That shouldn't have been a free kick that led to the goal. So one counteracted the other.
Any honest fan will say that Liverpool game was an absolute farce.
They were better with 9 men.
No, I agree with you still.
We were with 11.
Yeah.
They sat back and defended for their lives, and it needed an own goal for us to win it.
Okay.
9 men, like majority of the game as well.
James,
they were better than us with 9 and 10.
James retaliated yet? I want to know what James went before I went downstairs. I disagree. So I'd love to know what do you disagree about?
Yeah, go on.
So I disagree. Stell said that there's no bedding in period, or it takes a few games to get used to know what you need.
I never said that.
Yeah, you did. You said once when I joined. Yeah, you did. You said once I join the team, within 10 games, I'll know what this club needs and what I need to do to go forward. Yeah, you said that.
This group of players, and within 2 or 3 games, I know what we need to do here.
But there's still going to be a bedding in period and learning. For example, like you.
What are you learning? You're a qualified coach. You're an experienced manager. What are you learning?
Well, if you shut up and let me explain. So, how long did it take Klopp to come in?
That's what it is. I get irritated by waffle.
The clapper strikes back.
How long did it take Klopp? How long did it take Klopp to get Liverpool to where they was? How many seasons? It weren't 2 or 3 games, was it? You must be better than Klopp.
Come
You
on,
must be better than Klopp.
dig this one up.
They got to 2 finals in year 1.
Yeah, but they weren't exactly good, were they? What, they 8th, 10th?
Hang on, he got it.
He got it.
If we get to 2 finals this year, James, our fans are gonna make Ange the greatest manager that's ever walked the earth.
You have to separate the two. Stell just said within 2 or 3 games you'd know what you're doing and to kick on. For me, it took Klopp two seasons.
I know what needs to be done.
Yeah, Ange might know. Ange might know what needs doing. He just can't fucking do it.
He hasn't shown that he knows what he's doing, James. That's the problem.
James, let me ask you this. Let's bring it down to the cold hard facts. Do I think Ange has got a squad that I would say 100% definitely top 4? Not 100%. No. Do I think we've got a squad that should be anywhere near challenging for a title? Absolutely not. But James, can you tell me, hand on heart, that with the players we've got, we should be losing 10 of our last 18 and 17 out of 39?
Absolutely not.
Right. Okay. So the manager's not adapting. Whether we're going to say, right, okay, so what's the excuse then? Everyone keeps bringing it back to Klopp and Pep.
All I was saying is I disagree on how long it takes for a manager to come in and get their system going and to move the team forward. Like that is what I was saying. I wasn't sticking up for Ange. I was just saying, as a general, you look at Arteta, took him 2-3 years before they got started. Things like that. It's not always.
Eddie Howe.
Oh, yeah, but that's like saying Mason. If Mason would have won the FA Cup, that's saying.
But he didn't.
No, I disagree.
Okay,
personally.
James, I'm asking you, what about Eddie Howe, Unai Emery?
Agreed.
This Hurtsler guy. Unai Emery went into Aston Villa with a team that, again, were one of the favourites to go down. They were 17th, I think, when Gerrard left them. And ever since then, they've just been doing that. I think maybe like, I'm coming across the wrong way. I'm saying about getting used to the Premier League. Emery was already in the Premier League with Arsenal, so he had that year. Eddie Howe was in there with Bournemouth, so they already got a feel for the league. What I'm saying is someone to come in.
Ursula at Brighton, Maresca.
Okay, that's 2. But look how many people have come in and it's taken longer than that. And they're not exactly what have they done.
Pep wasn't in the Premier League before he came to City.
Well, yeah, but come on, taking over City is a lot different.
He wasn't in the Premier League before he came to City.
Jurgen Klopp.
And they still didn't. What did they finish? 4th in their first season?
Jurgen Klopp?
Yeah, we finished 5th.
Yeah, but look at the squad. Like,
no, but I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it takes. People say when he cut. Like, I'm not even sticking up for Ange here. This is nothing to do with Ange. I'm just saying people don't walk into the Premier League and just go, right, I know what's going on here. I know how to do this. I adapt. Blah blah blah. It takes time.
According to Ange,
I just listened. You just sucked Pochettino for half an hour. He had the same season bedding in period.
According to Ange, that those other leagues that he managed in were just as competitive. Football's football, mate. Right, well, I'm telling you what he was saying, right? Football's, mate.
Yeah, but I said Ange doesn't need time. I was talking about Ange that you were
Ange is telling us he doesn't need time. Ange is saying that his relevance and his experience is more than enough for him to win the league in the second season.
Exactly.
Always win a trophy for my second season, mate. Sorry.
But when have I ever stuck up for him and said he's going to win a season? When have I ever said anything out of the sort?
James, you haven't. I think the key thing for me is, look, first of all, one of my big bugbears that's doing the rounds is this constant comparing him to Klopp and Pep, right? First and foremost, I think it's absolutely disrespectful to 2 world-class managers that Ange gets compared to anywhere near them. I think it's embarrassing, right?
I wasn't comparing him, by the way, either.
No, not you. Excuse me, not you.
Easy, mate.
Right, not you.
John Kelleher
That's what we're doing now, right?
Killed him.
All around this fan base now, everyone's going, well, if you look at this first season and his first season, these are experienced managers, right? Let's be brutally honest. If Pep Guardiola turned around to Man City and said, I want to sign a 10-year contract extension, no part of Man City says no. They would sign him for 10, 15, right? Because he's a world-class manager. You give him money. You give him time. You know what he's going to do. Jurgen Klopp, exactly the same. Came in, bundles of experience. Same with Unai Emery. These are seasoned pros. The problem is we keep putting, not you, but we keep putting Ange in this bracket with, well, look what these managers did. But these managers had done it before. This manager's never done it anywhere of note before. And we've seen him spend a lot of money. We've seen him spend it very poorly. We've not seen him upskill any of the players, if we're going to be brutally honest. Right?
Agreed.
People can say Sar's better. Sar's hit and miss. And again, Sar has always been hit and miss. Always came in, had a few good games, then a few bad. The biggest issue for me in all of this, and again, it's not that I expect to be winning things, is that I just don't expect to be losing games at the volume he does. And I would expect that these stupid defensive mistakes every game, this inability to stop crosses into our box, he's never ironed it out. In 18 months, we look so fragile. And that's the key thing for me, James, that he's so, like Stel said, he's so hell-bent on that one idea of how football has to be played that his ego is getting in the way of what actually needs to be done for the better of Tottenham Hotspur. His ego is killing Tottenham right now. His ego isn't allowing us to rescue points in games. So that's the thing for me. 18 months, we should see some progression. We should see some green shoots. And we're not. It's got worse. Or as Ian said, it's flatlined.
I agreed. I completely agree.
Are you still Ange, James?
Yeah, I am, yeah.
Oh, I'm just curious. Sorry.
If you agree, but I thought he needs time to learn. I don't get it.
No. You're now talking about Ange again. I never said that.
No,
You said that.
Ange, that's all I asked.
But
I'm
I
not
spoke
talking
about Ange, and you said you disagree with it. When I
I said I disagree with you saying that people can walk straight into a job and then within 3 days or three games they know what to do and blah blah. And I said coming into the Premier League takes longer to adapt to. But you didn't let me finish. What I was going to say is Ange just had that one season for me to adapt. That's it. It's done. But for me, I like I've said to you on your show loads of times, I want Ange in because I want this whole thing to just cause fireworks. That's it. It's not Ange in because I want it to say I think he's going to succeed. I want this to blow up in his face. And I personally believe if this blows up, I think that we will have so much more Levy-outers come on board because people are saying now that Levy has backed Ange. So there is no way. There is. It's either Ange is shit and he's got to go, or Levy has to go because he's not back. So
okay, that makes sense now.
What? Sorry, no. Why does it have? Sorry, I don't get this argument. I've heard this for years. Why is it if I think a manager's shit, yeah, people go, oh well, if you don't like that manager, you're saying you like Levy. Why can't I think Levy's shit and Ange's shit?
Yeah, no, they're both shit. I want them both. If it was, I said I wanted Amorim in the whole time. I wanted Amorim before Ange come in. That was the guy I wanted before Ange was even mentioned. But now it's got to this point where I personally believe it's going to get to the point where Ange is going to say, you know what, I'm not taking this shit, or I hope that he's going to say, I'm not taking this shit and this criticism anymore. Maybe he won't, but I'm hoping. This is how I look at it. I hope that he would get so much criticism that he's going to turn and say, look, I didn't want Archie Gray. I didn't want Bergvall. I don't even know who they are. I didn't want this guy. And hopefully he comes out and says, I wanted Neto and Conor Gallagher. That's what I hope. So if there's a chance...
We know he wanted them. But he's not the only man. Ian will tell you. Ian's the font of all knowledge. He'll tell you that just because you don't get the first two guys you went for, apparently he didn't want anyone. Ian, I might be speaking for you, but you know, he wanted Neto and Gallagher, right? Couldn't get them, and there was no one else underneath that as a backup plan. It was those two or or bust, right?
There were 4 he wanted, those 2, and he got Solanke and Odegaard.
How about Eze, Ian? Did we...
I'm glad we brought this up, right? I'm glad we brought this up. So there was talk today on another show that we won't name, right, about, players are signed by committee, right? So they all get into a big group together, right? Lange, Flange, Ange, Levy, Cullen, everyone's together and one big happy family, and all the scouts, right? And they go through all the names of the players. Why are there so many people making decisions on players? Why can't it just be head scout, Ange, or head scout, Ange, football director?
Maz, the way
it's just not how it works anymore, though, is it?
No, that's nonsense. I'll tell you why that's nonsense, right? Because really big companies, right, have the capability to figure out whether a process, right, or a committee inside the company works for them or not. Right, it's not about how other companies do it or how other clubs do it. It's about what works for that club, right? What is effective. At Liverpool, they had a brilliant structure under Klopp, right? Klopp, the scouting team, and the football director made all the decisions. They didn't have Levy coming in, right, and telling them, "I want Jed Spence and I want, I don't know, whoever else, right, that they want," right? And this is the problem.
The recruitment team put together a list of names. It goes to Ange. He signs off or he doesn't sign off. I'll just give you an example.
No, it's done. It's done by a committee.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, don't listen to that other.
No. It's before they'd even come, right? They will take list.
Okay, you know better. All right, that's fine.
Can I tell you how
Ian, hold on. Hold on.
There's no Cullen, Daniel Levy. Let me just tell you what's going on. If you're talking about has Ange been backed properly,
no.
He's brought in. There have been 14 signings if you include Werner twice. There have been 11 fees. With Solomon and Werner twice, there've been no transfer fee. He's brought in 6 established players, 5 kids, because there was Phillips from last year as well as the 4 this year. He has spent 282 million, and on the players that have been sold, Kane, Sanchez, Skip, Winks, Celso, Emerson, and Højbjerg, the money will come because I think that's an option. That's a loan with an option to buy. I think they've got in around 175. So there's been 107 million net spent in 3 transfer windows, less the wages they've saved, and I'm seeing figures of 45, 50, 55 million saved. So you're talking about 50, 60, 70 million net spend, including wages.
How is this relevant to what I was saying?
Over 3 windows.
What's that got to do with?
How's this relevant, Ian, to what I was saying?
Coming round. Let me finish. Let me finish. Johnson. Brentford agreed 35 million. It fell through. Ange had to have Johnson. Had to have him. Now, we know Levy, for Levy to pay an extra 12.5 million on top of what Forest had agreed with Brentford when they were trying to get out of the problem with FFP 2 months earlier, that must have killed Levy. But he paid the extra 12.5 million because Ange had to have Johnson.
Isn't that quite worrying?
How you know
all this thing about Cullen says this and Levy says that.
Ian, you're half right. You're half right. That's not how it works. The way it works at Spurs is there is a committee, or a recruitment team, right? And this is how it works. Some of the players they sign are deliberately young because they believe there's future value in the player, whether it's ability or future selling value. Some of the players they sign, they pick, and then they say to the manager, "These are your options. Pick one." And then there's 1 or 2 that the manager gets to pick himself. So the manager will say, "I want Johnson and I want Solanke," for example. Then you'll get the Werners, the Odeberts, and some others where the club say, "Look, this is the list. Pick." And then the manager will say, "Right, well, if these are the options, even if I don't want them, it's either nothing or I pick somebody. So he picks some because he needs a squad. And then you get some youngsters like Ashley Phillips, and Archie Gray. These players, the club, but I don't know about Bergvall, but Spence, where the club will say, no, we're bringing them in. Okay. So there's a compromise. The problem with this is, go on, Maz.
Where I was, thanks for clarifying, Stel. Where I was going through with this, the reason why we know that it's structured like this is over the past 24 years and all the 16 managers and all of the interviews they've done and everything they've done over the years, we know that the board get involved with every single transaction that happens at this club, right? And we also know that players get thrusted on managers that they don't want. What my point is why can't we just have a simple process where the manager, right, and one or two others just pick the players they want without the club forcing on them players that aren't relevant to the plans of the manager and the football director? That's my point.
Doesn't this go down to, again, I don't know if this is changing conversation slightly, but doesn't this go down to, are we actually buying players for a manager and for a manager's philosophy, or are we buying players in for the club, knowing that we do change managers all the time?
Saver, it's both.
I actually agree with that, because if we was buying a player for Ange, the first midfielder on that list has to be Conor Gallagher. For me, the first winger on that is probably Neto. And they were the two that he was saying, I want, or we heard that he was saying,
they've got to want to come though, James, right? They've got to want
I know. But you have to also show some sort of willing of like backing. So say, for example, they say, right, Neto will bid 30 million for you, or whatever it was, 50 million. They have to be sort of also showing that they are backing it. There has to be some sort of evidence to say, you know what, you want him? I'll put a bid in. The rest is down to his agents. But we've done our part. Because my question is, again, it's kind of going off track, but if Ange has been backed, then surely that takes the pressure off of Levy, because he's backed his manager. We can't ask Levy to do much more than back your manager. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Can I get this back to the original point? This is what I wanted to know, right? Because we know Ange wanted Neto and Gallagher, right? I think we all know that. Yeah, it's right. He wanted those two. The problem was Conor Gallagher. Like, I think this comment in the chat, and again, people make football sound like it's a computer game. Ange being back would be getting him Gallagher and Neto this summer. But Gallagher didn't want to join Tottenham Hotspur. Again, as I had this debate with Dan E the other night, if a player don't want to join, you can't force them. He don't want to join Tottenham Hotspur. He's got offers elsewhere. That's what he wants to do. Now, the Neto one is slightly different, right? We probably could have got Neto, but the moment Chelsea get involved and whack down a huge fee, I'll check out in a minute what wages Neto is on as well. My biggest issue with all of this, guys, is, okay, you want Gallagher, but you know you can't get him. Where's your guy in behind Gallagher who might not have everything Gallagher's got, but he's got 8 of the 10 things Gallagher's got? Do you know what I mean? I work in the world of recruitment and talent. The hiring manager says to me, here's the 10 things I need. I can't always find those 10 things. I found John Smith, Sally Sue, whatever. They've got 8 of these things. You can teach the last 2. Where was the Gallagher backup? Do you know what I mean? Where was the...
You're spot on. Sava, you are spot on. This is the issue at Spurs, right? Let's just pretend Gallagher's a 6. I'm just going to pretend he's a 6, okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
What Spurs should be doing is saying, right, let's identify 5 really good 6s. Zubimendi, Manu Kone, Gallagher, Paulinia. We end up with Pape Sarr, okay? The club, when they draw up this list, it's mediocrity, maybe 1 gem. And if you don't land that gem, we accept mediocrity. And this is how the club have functioned for as long as we know under this ownership. Yep. Where I agree with Maz is the manager should be stronger and say, right, you can't get me Gallagher. Don't you dare give me Sarr. Go get me Paulinia. And if you can't get him, go and get me who's the young lad that's tearing it up at Brighton right now?
Belieber.
Right. Go and scout. You scouts that are the experts. Go and find me a Belieber. Go and find me someone like that. But what happens at Spurs is we're like, do you know what's an easy way out of this problem? Go and get that Werner. You know that Odegaard, the one that got relegated? Just get him in. His wages are low.
Wasn't Odegaard like
this
number
is
Z on the list after Neto then? Because we're going for
the shocking thing is,
He wanted both.
He wanted both. I think the plan was to get Neto and Odegaard.
We ended up with mediocrity.
Odegaard has not been bought in as a first team player. Look how many players Odegaard's got in front of him on that left wing position. He's not been bought as a first choice player. So he wanted Neto and Odegaard, but we end up with just Odegaard. There should have been another guy behind Neto. Like Stel said, there should have been a list of 5 wingers. Neto should be on that list.
The shocking thing is,
we can't get Neto. Right. What about the other 4? What about the other 4? Right.
Yeah. But the shocking thing is that we, in the summer and during when the window was open, when the season started, we were like, yeah, but what about Gyökeres? And what about Fofana? And what about Manakone? And what about and Zubamendi? Right? And then we're just seeing all of these top players going to all these other clubs, not in the Premier League, where we could have just gone in and said, no, don't join them for 24 million. Come to us for 30 and we'll give you, I don't know, 150 grand a week. But we don't do it. And the fact that we are coming out and identifying these players around Europe and the club isn't doing that, who the hell we're not even, I don't even think our scouts are even looking at those players because they've probably been told not to. And that's what worries me.
I don't blame Ange for that because, for example, if Ange come into me and I was the head of recruitment or Ange or Lange or whoever and said, look, the players I want is Conor Gallagher and Neto. The fact that they've come back or they've waited all transfer window gone, sorry, we can't get those. We're going to have to stick with our Odegaard, unfortunately. If I was in charge of the transfers and he said, right, here's Conor Gallagher, I would go, right, okay, he's number 1. And then I would do, we're currently looking at stacks and facts now. I would find 4, 5, 6 underneath and say, sorry, mate, he didn't want to join. Have a look at this guy. And then it's down to Ange to go, you know what? Okay, yeah, he's a good player. I'll take him. But the fact that there is nothing behind that, I personally don't believe that that's Ange.
We can blame the scouting team on this
accepting that process.
I agree with that.
Ange knew from before the summer, of what I'm hearing, is that Gallagher had made it clear from a year back that he had no interest in joining Tottenham Hotspur if he leaves Chelsea. We knew. So it wasn't like we got to the end of the summer and went, shit, we can't get Gallagher. Who else is there? They knew. Ange knew. Now, what we've got to remember in this as well, and this rings true for Pochettino as well, and people don't want to hear it. Sometimes these managers turn down players, right? So sometimes when we say, like, and Poch wasn't backed, he wasn't given anyone, during that season, Pochettino, when Moussa Dembele left to go to China, was it China?
Yeah.
China. Ange was offered Yuri Tielemans on loan, and he turned it down. So, listen, I'm not saying he was backed, but sometimes these managers...
Do you mean Pochettino?
Pochettino, sorry. He turned down Yuri Tielemans, who then did brilliantly on loan at Leicester and then signed for Leicester, won them the FA Cup. But the point stands. If you know Conor Gallagher's not going to be joining... the summer, and by the way, this shouldn't be the summer. We all know how this works. The recruitment teams don't suddenly start working on the first day of the transfer window. This is their job 24/7, all year round.
I'll start working on the last day. I'll start working on the last day of the transfer window. I don't know about the first.
It's mad.
Saba, why for me, I'm such a staunch Enoch out and Levy out above everything else. As much as I know Ange, for me, is not the answer to... The reason I'm such a staunch, I despise the owners, I can't stand them, is because this conversation, we go through it every single season, no matter who the football director is, no matter who the manager is. We go through this same drama every year to the point of where now I'm not even angry anymore. I'm just completely disconnected from it. Like Ian, I think we talk on the phone. I think he thinks there's something wrong with me. Like, are you all right? Because he can't believe how disconnected I am from Spurs. Like I've said to him, I'm not going to games anymore. I don't care about the club badge. I couldn't give a shit what colour the kit is. They can do what they want. Because for me, listen, and when he gets sacked, the next guy comes in, we'll have the same conversation in 18 months. And we'll be saying, these transfers...
Why don't we film it now still? Can we have that conversation again right now, guys? Let's just change Conor Gallagher's name to Edison of Atalanta.
I told you, Sam, change the colour of your cap. Put the date in the top right-hand corner.
Yeah. It's so true, though. And for me, look, this is the key thing, right? A few of my friends are scouts. You know, I've got a lot of friends that work in pro clubs. I've worked for a football club before, and I've seen it all on transfer deadline day and this kind of stuff, right? I think a lot of fans seem to think that you suddenly get to the transfer window and suddenly all the teams go, right, who should we buy? The Langs, the Mackenzies, the Paraticis, ever since that transfer window shut at the end of July, end of August, for September, October, November, December, their job doesn't stop. Every day they are identifying who's available, speaking to agents. Yeah. Is your player going to be happy to join in January? What's it going to take? But Spurs are just so bad at it. We are so bad at it that we allowed for 2 straight transfer windows that our first signing in both windows was Timo Werner. That's how bad we are at it.
But I think maybe was it Andrew said that Lange came to him with Werner and he was like, yeah, well, let's do it. I think was it Lange? I think they came to him.
See, this is with the Timo one. I do find it a bit sticky. I mean, because a lot of people say, "Oh, Ange said everyone comes in on my signings," and listen, he shouldn't. If he just shut up, he'd have more credit from everybody personally. But he also, what people are not sort of saying is all season last season he said, my front three are not good enough. I need better front threes.
And he signed Werner again.
But it doesn't make sense, though, does it? If he's saying he's not good enough, and then he signed him.
James, where have you been for the last year? It's a walking contradiction.
Yeah, no, but this is what I'm saying. I don't think it's all on him. This is where I think the club's rotten to the core. Because if all season he's saying he's not good enough, and then they sign him again, I think sometimes people cherry pick what Ange says. Like they'll say,
I don't think we're saying it is all on Ange on certain things.
No, I'm just saying.
This is where Ange being the age that he is and quote unquote experienced, he should know how to manage our expectations as fans. Look, and I've said this a million times before, but if Ange came in, set out his let's say his plan to us fans in terms of what he says in his press conferences, and doesn't say, look, I know I've won everywhere I've been, but I'm gonna, I'm not guaranteeing that I can win at Spurs, but what I hope to do is take this team on, try and qualify us for the Champions League and progress up the table, and let's see where we go. Then I don't think we'll be as angry as we are now.
Yeah, but how does that look to the team that he has got there? Yeah, I've won every season, every second year I've been there, but this season I'm going to try my best.
He can still set the goals high for the team internally. I think was it Mourinho or Mourinho used to have? Sorry, James.
Go on. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say Mourinho used to have. I believe. He used to have the table in the dressing room or something in the dressing room saying to the players that we're here now, we want to get to this place in a few games time. He used to always set them goals, right? And there's nothing saying that Ange can't expect the best from the players and really spur them on in the dressing room and on the training pitch. But if Ange didn't manage everyone's expectations properly, he almost said, let them dream, let them, think we can win the league, let them do this. Whereas in contrast, when Jose was top of the league, when he was in his first little spell, he said, guys, calm down. It's still early days yet, right? And things did go south. So there's just, all I'm saying is there's different ways of managing our expectations and keeping our emotions in check with what he's saying, but he didn't do that. 1 week it was let's shoot for the stars. The next week we're going to win the league. The next week, I hate my front three. The next week he's really happy with the players. The next week I only sign the players. The next week,
I mean, you come on, you're not fired. Like, you haven't got to believe everything that somebody says, and
but people do though.
He's a professional manager. What do you mean?
But what you just said, what you just said,
one at a time. One at a time. One at a time.
What you just said there, is you just said he can say, give him tasks behind the scenes, and then say in front of everybody else something different. Like, again, I don't think he's good enough. But if he's trying to change the mentality, he has to come out and say, like, we are going to win, or that we're going to be doing this, this, and this. And then go behind the scenes and say, look, we're progressing. By here, we want to be here. By here, we don't want to be here. People behind the scenes will be like, hold on a minute. You're saying we're going to be here, but everyone else you're telling we're going to win the league. It's just this, for me, the one thing I criticise him for is not being honest. And yet, the fact that he kind of tops and turns. It's
no. All he needs to say is not commit the earth to the fan base, which is what he did, right? He committed. He committed.
Who actually said, you know what? Yeah, we're going to win the league.
Ange did, second season.
But he's going to trophy.
Ange said we're going to be challenging for the league this year.
He said I'd like to challenge next season for the league.
He said it multiple times.
I will send you links of all the channels and all the Spurs so-called gurus who came out with things like Pep's gone on this 4-game losing cycle since we beat Man City in the cup. Ange broke Pep. I will send you links.
I don't care. I don't care about those channels.
You don't care, but 9 out of 10 Spurs fans do, right? They also said one phone call to Dragusin and he turned his back on Bayern Munich. We beat Barcelona to Bergvall because Ange is massive, right? This glorified bullshit that our fans have got sucked into is why we are where we are now. And you get this unbelievable love for the most mediocre manager we've had in ages. You don't believe it.
But I just don't get it. I just don't get why people. I just don't get why people. I don't even get why we're talking about it, because that's like me saying to you, right, Father Christmas is real, and you go, you know what, I'm going to make a show about Father Christmas being real because he said it on his show.
But that's what they do. They do.
I am running out of ideas, so that could be tomorrow night, guys and girls. That could be tomorrow night.
I think it's true for me. I hate the fact. I hate it.
I'm not joking. Someone make a show about it. If he said,
can I bring this back to look? For me, listen, I don't care what other YouTubers have said. I don't care what blah blah blah. For me, what I think is, Ange. For me, I think he talks too much. I think that is half the problem.
Agree.
Sometimes when he's asked a question, I think what Maz was saying, and sorry if you didn't mean this, Maz, you'll tell me, but I think it was more. He could be a little bit more diplomatic in his answers and kind of shut them down. But when he's asked a question about anything, he goes into these monologues to explain in depth. Like, let's have a look at a few examples. Do you want to control the game today against Brighton? Right, most managers just say, of course, we're going to do whatever we can to get the win. Just give a wishy-washy answer like that, and we as fans go, brilliant, he wants to win. He comes out with, well, look, the sort of team that we are and who we are. Look, I'm not really too bothered about controlling games and blah, blah, blah. We want to be out. It's like, stop talking. Then after the game, he comes out with, yeah, but if we had got the draw and if I'd made these substitutions, we're getting undeserved points. No, Ange, stop talking. Then when he's asked about leadership, and he goes into this great, big, long monologue about, well, there's different ways of having leadership in your team. Dude, just say, you know who your targets are moving forward. You know what senior players you want to bring in, and we're working on that for the future. But the problem is, James, he don't shut up.
Agreed.
He just says everything. So when he's asked about winning, he could make light of it. Say, look, do you know what? Yeah, look, in other leagues, I have won in my second season. Look, this is a tough challenge. I'd love to win in my second season, but you know what? There's a lot of good teams. Cool, great answer. But he comes out with things like, well, yeah, I've won everywhere I've been. And there's nothing wrong with that because that's factually correct. And I like facts. But caveat it, put some caveats in there for fans so that those fans out there that are all going, Ange, can actually sit there and go, hang on, let's calm down a bit because I'm sorry for venting and ranting. These are the same fans that when we have a shit transfer window, tell me it's great, right? It's a youth project. These are his players. They're making videos about why they are perfect AngeBall players. Then when it goes wrong, these are the same very fans that are, these players aren't good enough. Yeah. Ange wasn't backed. They can't play his system. For me, as a fan, make up your bloody mind what is your stance on this football club? I'll tell you mine. Clip it. Clip this. For all those people who make videos about me, this is my stance right now in 60 seconds. Tottenham Hotspur have a decent 11, a good 11, that for me should not be losing as many games as it does. We've got better defenders than what we're actually seeing. We've got a manager for me that is tactically flawed and is very tactically inflexible, right? And our transfers are shocking. And if the manager wants to accept that, then that's on him, right? That's my stance. It's not changed from the summer to now. But please, this is my plea to all fans. Stop with the buzzwords when your predictions are wrong. When you are wrong, turn around and say, I was wrong. There's nothing wrong with it. Say, I was wrong. Yeah, I over-egged it. But don't big the players up in August and then by December, November, they're not good enough. Right? I'm not having that. It's not fair. It is not on. You tell me Romero Van der Ven, the greatest partnership. Oh, it's not their fault. Which one is it? Rant over. Sorry.
Yeah. To add as well is when we won those 8 out of the 10 games and we drew 2 and we're top of the league, and the journos were saying to him, "Oh, some Tottenham fans think we can win the league and go all the way," and he was like, "Let them dream, mate. It's their club. Let them dream." At that point, he could have said, "It's early days. I've just come out the club. I'm still fine-tuning and tweaking the system. Let's see how we go in the next 3 to 4 months, and we can assess where we are as a club at that point." No, let them dream, mate. Let them do this, let them do that. And us being so desperate for success, the fans just went nuts. And this and everything he then subsequently said, it's got even worse. So, yeah, someone just said he's the ultimate yes man. He's the ultimate yes man.
I don't disagree, but or like most content now, and is reacting to someone else's content or reacting to their content or reacting to their opinion. Like, make your own opinion. Talk about your own opinion. Stop. Like, who gives a shit what the guy down there? He said we're going to win the league. Well, let's make a video because he said that I believe he's going to win the league.
He's our manager, He's meant to have given us transparency about what the aims are for the club for the season, for example, what he's planning for the future. Because obviously, the other day, I remember like a month ago, he contradicted himself by saying we're only 15 months into this. The week before, he was like, "Well, I always win something my second season." So which is it, mate? You're either what? You're going to win something, or just 15 months into a project, or whatever.
So, from my opinion,
I can't be both things can't be true because they're contradicting themselves, right? So he doesn't have every week. I hear something different, then he says something completely opposite next week, and then it goes like a vicious circle. Like there's no linear. Like, if, for example, last season when Maz said about first 10 games we were really good. Instead of saying let the fans dream, say I'm 10 games into a project or whatever bloody thing you want to call it, rebuild, whatever.
Buzzword.
Yeah, after you throw the buzzwords in because it's a buzzword show. Anyway, but
so if you were talking about, is it? If you were talking about,
the fans should be patient, right? This is just the beginning, right? But instead, he goes, "Let the fans dream. We can win the league." Blah blah blah. So what I'm saying is, by that, he's making the fans have certain expectations, right? The problem is, he did this 6-7 times, and then he doesn't. And then the way he plays football doesn't reflect this. And then he says something different a different week. We're just here to
See, my stance on this is
the narrative himself, and the problem is fans and I don't blame fans for this because he's the manager. You need to listen to what he says. Like it's just.
see my opinion on this is so if you're going to believe that, though, but all he said was let them believe or let them dream. For me, if you're going to actually take that and go, yes, he said we're going to win the league. Yes, we're going to.
No, that's not how I took it. But I'm saying the majority of the fan base.
But yeah, no, exactly. This is what I'm saying. But if you've got someone saying that they had to believe or we're going to win the league, then you need to leave those sort of people alone. They're nuts. You know what I mean? They have no idea about football. They have no idea who Tottenham are. They're crazy. If he says let them dream and then they go on and say, oh, I'm going to win the league, you need to just leave them people alone.
This is a majority. This is not a minority of people.
Can I ask a question? Why do people listen to all this nonsense?
That's what I'm trying to say.
He says, no, seriously, we go at the end of the day, the proof of the pudding's in the eating. It's match day. End of. Everything else is noise. Everything else is pointless. Meaningless. Yeah. All the transfer rumours in the papers during the summer. It's all hot air and nonsense. It's who signs. Who signs? You know, it's when you see somebody signing the contract on the website, you know someone's joined. The rest of it's bollocks.
This is what I said. This is what I said in the summer when people were saying, I'm not sure if it was this summer or the summer before, but everyone was saying that Ali Gold come out and said one thing. I can't think of the other one. What's the Italian dude? He come out. He listed about 5 players, Romano, and none of them were even remotely
very accurate.
But none of them were even near. So this is what I'm saying.
I'm not talking about signings. I was talking about what the manager says. How do we get to signings?
Because it's how people react and what people spread rumours. Like you're reacting by people saying we're going to win the league, and then you said we're in the minority.
You talk about winning things in the second season multiple times, not just once.
But that was a fact, though, isn't it? And if you actually watch that, interview, that's the only one I will stick up for him with, because if you actually watch the interview, she's kind of digging at him, and she says, "You always win a trophy, or do you always win a trophy in your second year?" And he said, "Yes, I always win a trophy in my second year." So he actually didn't say anything wrong.
No,
that was completely blown out of proportion.
Can I ask you? You saw what the transfer window was like. You've seen how it flatlined. So do you believe what he says?
Not. You're misunderstanding what I'm saying.
Seriously, I'm sure you're not that
gullible. What has he saying?
I'm not saying I do. I'm saying the majority of people, other people.
It's irrelevant. The only manager that's ever said anything that was accurate was Conte after the Southampton game.
And Mourinho.
Ian, do you watch Ange's press conferences?
I can't be arsed. It's bullshit.
I agree with you. You're not getting the point.
Sorry?
Do you watch Santa Claus's press conferences?
Can I just say where I'm at with all of this, right? Two years ago, I put a tweet out, my infamous tweet, where I said, Levy and ENIC have created this mess, but now the fans are the problem. The fans are the biggest problem at Tottenham Hotspur right now. The backlash is probably the biggest backlash I've had to anything. I got rinsed. And you know what? I thought, shit, should I have said that? Then when I thought about it, I thought, fucking hell, I've hit a nerve here, haven't I? I've really hit a nerve. And as the years have gone on, that's the truest thing I've ever said. The fans of Spurs are 100% the problem. And I'll tell you why we're the problem. Any other big club would, under no circumstances, tolerate this. Man United fans, Chelsea fans, Arsenal fans, Liverpool, they would not tolerate this. At Spurs, however, we have accepted it. We might say we disagree with Ange and that we don't like the transfers and leave it. Do you know what, though? At the end of the day, we have accepted it. And nothing will ever change at this club until fans say enough is enough. And we had this kind of mini argument in the WhatsApp group earlier where I was saying, I don't give a shit if a YouTuber now is talking about how he's calling out the board, because as soon as we win, he won't be doing that. He'll be saying how good Ange is and how the tactics are and how we're in a top 4 race. And then 2 games later when we lose, he'll say, oh, he wasn't backed. And it's it's this. The entire fan base does it.
Flip-flops.
1 minute, Ange is the best. Next minute, it's a process. 1 minute, Levy is the greatest. Next minute, he never backed Ange. 1 minute, Timo's he's now woken up. Next minute, oh my God, he's still shit. 1 minute, Solanke perfectly fits the system. The next time, he needs to be patient. We as a fan base agree on fuck all. We are the most divided fan base in the Big Six. And the reason is because no one wants to admit it and say it for what it is. This ownership has failed us. This ownership. We used to win on average 1 trophy every 5 years. If you go from 1900 till Levy took over, on average, 1 trophy every 5 years. So 2 every 10 years. Maybe we've got 3 in a decade and then only 1 the next one. So it averages out. This ownership is an abomination. They are horrendous when it comes to football. And we refuse to do anything about it. So for me, where I'm at with it now is this. I go to the games and I think, you fucking fans up there are clowns. Because as soon as we lose, you'll all flip. But as soon as we win, oh, Ange Postecoglou. The journalists are the biggest con men going. They are so ultra positive on everything, even when they lie. You get the odd journalist that comes out and says, do you know what? This is wrong what's going on at Spurs. This can't carry on. The entire Spurs YouTube world, for me, is just, I have no idea what's going on with it. The fact that Sava's doing a show saying buzzword crazy sums it up. I think we are the most fractured fan base in the Big Six. And you know something? I've completely detached from it in the point of the club can do whatever it wants. I actually agree with James. I hope it crash and burns because I don't see any other way out of this. I don't see how it ever changes, man. Our fan base is gone.
I woke up this morning and went onto Twitter, and there's this idiot, I won't name him, talking about how great Levy is. He's given us a great ground and a great training ground and this and that. And I just wrote back, and I got quite a lot of likes. Go and learn the history of the club before you put this rubbish on here. And that summed it up. What on earth are you talking about? Tottenham Hotspur started in 1880, not 2000. And there's someone, do you know what? Levy would sack Levy. If he was anyone different and someone like Daniel Levy was working as a CEO, chairman for this club, he would get sacked. 1 win in 24, no strategy, flip-flopping, different types of managers, different types of styles, you know, not paying proper wages to get proper players in, because at the end of the day, the best teams have the best players who get paid the best wages. It's very simple.
Can I ask Phil a question then? Like on what you... Go on, Sav. Are you gonna?
Yeah, no. I want to move away from this conversation. I don't want to get into a conversation where we're just starting to talk about. I don't want to talk about other YouTubers and stuff like that.
No, Sav, I'm not mentioning names.
I do. What I do want to do though is mention somebody by name. And this guy, I listen. I said I hate having the best goal difference in the league. We need to stop scoring so many goals. We need Areola in. My response to you. We're 10th and we've lost 5 games. He's gone on to say the loss to Ipswich has been the best thing to happen to this channel. Dude, my channel's been going for years. What are you talking about? The loss versus Ipswich. We're 10th. AT has said, and these people saying that scoring the most goals in the league is a sign of progress. Well, they must be nuts. Yes, because the league isn't decided by who scores the most goals. AT has then come and said, let's all pretend that our defence hasn't improved this year. I mean, I don't know if you watched us against Crystal Palace or Ipswich or Newcastle. The defending's calamity. What I would say is, AT, everyone's seen you now. You've got your 5 minutes of fame. The boys on this chat will tell me off for bringing this up. You're welcome to come on and have a chat with me. You know what? I'll even let you on now. I do a debate show. People like you want to lie and say, this is the best thing that's happened to this channel. Doesn't make any sense. So because I've been correct about this football club for the best part of 2 decades means that this is the best thing that's happened, losing a game to Ipswich. Dude, I was doing podcasts and stuff when Tottenham were getting knocked out of the cup to Colchester. Don't worry about that, mate. Listen, you're probably a new fan. So everybody, AT, come on. Let's have the chat, yeah? Because you seem like you know everything about Spurs. And AT, this is the last thing I'm going to show you. Considering how great we are, the last thing I'm going to show you. Look at that. You can't handle the truth, my friend. guys, can we move it away from this? I want to talk about Man City.
Okay,
The Man City game. The Man City game before you all call me a Man City fan. Right?
No, you're a gooner, Sam. You're a gooner.
Yeah, don't try to swap now.
I was called a gooner and a Man City fan. And I said the other day, I live on the Virgin Atlantic train between London, Euston and Manchester Piccadilly. I just, float up and down all day. Guys, Man City away. Sorry, big up Dietrich. Man City away.
Big up everyone.
We've got Man City away. Man City have lost 4 on the bounce. I was having this chat earlier with Dave. Big up Dave from the Irish Hotspur, where we were saying it's that kind of delicate balance between, is it playing a wounded animal that is so wounded they're there for another beating, or is it playing a wounded animal that for the first time in 5 games are back on their own in their own home, have had a 2-week international break, have got players fit, and this is now becoming the worst time to play them. What does everyone think? It's a fine line, right?
So back in training this week at Man City, De Bruyne, Stones, Grealish, and Akanji, all back in full-time training.
The doctor's coming. The doctor's coming.
For me, if Kevin De Bruyne plays with our high line, it is going to be an absolute difference. It's going to be 5-0. If Kevin De Bruyne is fit and Haaland's up front, it's a 4-5-0.
It's a difficult one to call, right? Because if there's one thing we know about Spurs, when we know we're fucked, we do something we're not supposed to and find a way to get a result. I would not be shocked if we go up there and get a 2-2. But reality check, I think the current mood in the camp, rumours of player bust-ups, Bentancur suspended, the defenders looking abysmal, rumours Kulu might be out for this game, and
Bentancur's out as well, isn't he?
Man City cannot go 5 games in a row losing. The doctor's in town, right? If as a betting man, all my money's on City to beat us. But Spurs do this, don't they? They give you that bit of hope and get something when they shouldn't.
I just think this time it won't happen.
Then we'll lose to Fulham at home to just put it back to.
I've got a question. I've got a question for everybody. Should we play Archie Gray in centre midfield?
Yeah, let's put Archie Gray.
That's not the game to experiment with Archie Gray, I'm afraid.
Put Archie Gray centre mid. Would you reckon, Ian?
If Spurs are putting the appeal in regarding Bentancur, then is the suspension put on ice until the appeal is held?
No. If the appeal fails, they extend the suspension.
You guys are 10 games.
But what if the appeal isn't fouled or approved before the City game?
They're not appealing the ban. They're appealing the length of the ban. So he's going to be banned.
Okay.
So they might get this all the way to 5 games, and then at 5 games go, yeah, we've overturned the decision. It's only going to be a 5-game ban, and he can play again. But I just want to, on the football side of things, guys, I think that's a really important point to make, right? When people are saying, well, Man City have lost 4 in a row, they have, but there's 2 key things for me, guys. One, they have not lost a single one of those games at the Etihad, right? Yeah. And this is massive, right? Before we talk about home form, Man City have not lost a game at the Etihad since they lost all 4 away still.
Lisbon away, Brighton, Bournemouth away, Tottenham,
Lisbon and Brighton.
Oh, yeah.
All away.
In 3 different competitions.
Yeah.
What's the last game they lost at the Etihad when Kane scored?
Hang on, man. Hang on. Man City have not lost at the Etihad since November 2022. They are exactly 2 years without losing a game at the Etihad. Right? So this is why I think there's a really interesting dynamic. Then let's add the elephant in the room. Pep Guardiola signed a new contract.
Yeah, we're getting spanked, aren't we?
Stay on as Man City manager. I think that's very clever timing from Man City to kickstart their season. I think this could be a long day at the office for Tottenham on Saturday. I really do. High line.
I think that the biggest factor for us is how the players respond to all of the negativity about Ange losing the dressing room, top players being unhappy. because they're going to gossip, aren't they, in the camp and talk to each other. And it's whether or not they believe in each other as a team and they believe in Ange and the tactics. I fear that we've seen this many times before, haven't we? And I can't see us galvanising ourselves to beat Man City, unfortunately.
Our away record suggests we're in for an extremely difficult
We're
day.
spanking, man.
Yeah.
Man City have got that boost with Pep.
Let me ask you guys.
Suspended. They're getting players back. Our defense looks shambolic, and we're away from home. Do you know what? In fact, forget this whole Spurs are going to surprise us. City win this, don't they? So City
No,
win.
I'm predicting City to win. I know they're gonna win, but I would not be surprised if it's a 2-2 draw like last time when Kulusevski scored the last minute goal. I would not be surprised because City. I don't know why they always find a way to Spurs are the kryptonite of City. But let's see what Ange. I just hope.
It's not strictly true, Dietrich.
No, it's not always true. That's 100%. But like they always have a difficult time against us, and that's factually true.
Well, it's not factually true. I mean, I remember going there 2 years ago, and we were 2-0 up at half time, and they spanked us 4-2. Like you know what I mean.
Not every time. Not every time. It's not a bad record.
I didn't say every time, but how many times have we gone to the Etihad and won? Very different at White Hart Lane. But
I'm not predicting a win. No, not a win. I'm predicting a draw.
Listen, I'll take the draw, but our away form is absolutely horrific. I just can't. I can't see how we beat them.
I just feel like they've got.
We've drawn one game all season.
I just think they've got every weakness to like like if you was to create a weakness, I think you would Kyle Walker on the wing, so he's going to keep up with pace with Son or Johnson, and then you've got De Bruyne, Silva in midfield that can play iron and needle passes to someone like Haaland up top. I just think every position they could just match us.
No, that's true. That's true.
Don't you think though, if we sit deeper and play that transitional counter-attack, we could actually exploit them.
But we know that's not going to happen, isn't it? We know
actually,
if that happens, you know what? I'll take my hat off to Ange and say, you know what, fair play. But it's never going to happen.
No, do you know what, James? I would not be surprised if Ange. I would not be surprised if Ange learned his lesson against Ipswich and actually try to fix a bit of issues, maybe against City. But in general, no.
Aren't we missing the obvious here, though? When teams play Man City, tell me if I'm wrong, but teams don't choose how they play against Man City. Man City kind of dictate how teams play against. Man City are going to have 65% of the ball minimum at home, right?
Yeah.
And more, exactly, Ian, right? I was being conservative. Man City will dictate that teams have to sit in because they're forced to. For me, as I said, when Ange played this way against Man City the other week at home, people are going, oh, he's adapted. I don't think that's adapting. I think that's being forced because you've got the team that are the best with the ball in the country. From minute one, they have the ball. Stell is absolutely right. The best way to beat this Man City team is how we got that first goal against them the other week at White Hart Lane. Yeah. When Man City, we know they like a high line like we do. Yeah. It's that transition over the top. That's going to be the transition for me. But it's how we defend. And for me, I just don't know if we can cope. We couldn't cope with Leif Davis and what is his name? Was it Ben Johnson? Am I making that up? The Ipswich right wing back
scored the goal as well. We couldn't cope with him either. He was getting...
No. I'm talking about the wing backs. We couldn't cope with their wing backs at all. That's Ipswich Town at home. Look, I'll take a draw. I'll take a draw right now. I'll bite your hand off for a draw.
Sorry, Sav, we don't draw.
No, mate, I know, but I'm taking a draw at City because I fail to believe that they're going to lose 4 games in a row, then go into an international break and come out the same wounded team. And if you actually look in those games, the first half against Sporting, the first half against Brighton, Man City should have been 4-0 up in both games.
Yeah.
Man City were all over. Now, don't get me wrong, that's on them to put their chances away, but they're going to have chances against our back four. We know that.
Do we know if Van de Ven and Romero are out?
They're
We
out.
don't know.
S-
We don't know.
Yeah,
So-
he said, didn't he? He said after the international break, with Van der Ven, he just said he'll be back after the international break. But obviously, that could be this game. It could be fucking 10 games time.
We'll find out on Friday in the interview. Sava, you know when you said Man City would dominate the play, this is why I was saying we might actually be forced back and without planning it, play the transitional game because City pin us back, and that. So I'm just saying if that was to happen, Spurs have got a chance because that's their vulnerability. But the likelihood is City are going to bounce back because I personally can't see Pep going 5 in a row. I can't see that. I think they will find a way because they have to, and they're Man City. Whereas we will maybe give them a good game in the end because we're forced back and we play the transition game which suits us and we'll get into them. But rather than it being a 6-0, 5-0, maybe it's a 2-1, 3-1 City.
I don't think it's going to be. I don't think we're going to be talking cricket score territory.
Yeah,
but
I don't think so.
I agree. I think what we need to do is we need to do what we did when we were successful against them. What did Jose do? What did Conte do? What did Nuno do? They all sat in and went, you know what? Let's just hit on the counter-attack. My biggest worry now, though, is one, who is our back four going to be? And two, that guy Erling Haaland is in form. That guy's been scoring goals for fun. And we've got to remember, when we beat them the other week at White Hart Lane, look how many chances they had. Like, look how much, I mean, I'm not saying clear-cut chance. Look how many times they got the ball in our box. There was no Haaland there. That guy will destroy us if they get chances to him. So, look, obviously we all want to win. I just can't see it. Sorry if that's negative.
Can I ask you guys a question? Can I ask you guys a question, right? Let's assume that Van de Ven is out. He's still got the hamstring injury. Romero might have this injury he's carrying. Let's say those two are out, just hypothetically. Dragusin went off injured against Romania. If those three are out, who are our two centre-backs going to...
Gray and
Davis.
Also, even if Romero's fit, he's literally, was it like yesterday, he's had a baby in Argentina. So there may be some sort of leeway with that. There may be, even if he is fit, do you want him back in time because a new baby?
Under any circumstances, just had a kid, he's been playing with an injury, came off injured the other day. The thing is, you know, this
come off for Argentina as well, didn't he?
Graham Ben Davies' centre back is suicide.
Well, I think Ben Davies is a shoe-in to play, but
fuck me.
Look. We went to, if I'm not wrong, it was last December. We went to Man City with Royale and Davis, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Centre half, but
we had Harry Kane.
I don't know. Look, Man City needs to really speak up with. What happened?
We had Harry Kane though.
We had Harry Kane. we actually had good footballers.
When we went with
we didn't.
No, we didn't. You're right. Sorry.
It was 2-2. It was 2-2 when we had Emerson and Davis.
It was 3-all.
It was 3-all.
Do you know what? We had a really good Lo Celso.
Yeah, Lo Celso scored, didn't it? Lo Celso and Kulu.
Scored a great goal that day, actually.
Yeah.
Lo Celso's goal, his performance was superb that day.
Yeah, then he played one more game after that, then he got dropped.
Yeah, but let's be fair. One game a season for a man with his injury record is pretty impressive, isn't it?
It's better than Johnson. We're playing week in, week out.
Did Højbjerg play that game?
Yeah, he did.
It was Brian Hill as well. Brian Hill started.
Brian Hill played. Fucking hell, yeah.
Yeah, I remember I was in Cape Verde watching it on my Sun Lounger, and I remember thinking, "Oh, we're going to get tongued." Listen, I'm not saying Spurs can't get a result. I'm not, but for me, I think it's a really difficult one because normally you're going into games like this and City are flying, right? I don't know what Man City to expect because of the 2-week international break. And I said this on a show earlier. Carl Walker gave a really honest interview after the Brighton game on Sky Sports. And they turned around and they said, look, what's going on? He said, no excuses. He went, injuries, yeah, whatever. We've got enough talent on that pitch to be winning. Something's not right. He went, we'll sort it out. We always do. But he said, if any team in the league needs this international break, it's Man City. And it came at a brilliant time for them. And that's my worry, is that they come out as the wounded animal against us rather than we're trying to pile more misery on. But does anyone think we're going to win?
No.
Yeah, good odds.
Next question.
No, I don't think, but I would not be surprised if we manage to get something. I say I will not be surprised, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Do you only get 10-1 at the bookies on Spurs?
It's the hope that kills you, isn't it? It's the hope that kills you.
Yeah, you're right, James. You're actually right.
The thing is, every season, Man City go for this little kind of patch where people write them off. And then Pep always finds a way to galvanize the team. There's always this kind of, not siege mentality, but he does something where he comes out. There's a big, do you remember a couple of years ago when they were trying to close down Arsenal, when the season they went to the Emirates and beat them 3-1, he made that comment about they're all against us. All these charges are against us. All these fines are because they hate us winning. And he rallied that dressing room. This new 1 year extension is almost like, guys, I'm still with you. You're my boys.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. Do you think that he's running out of a contract that people are a bit like, okay, he's leaving, like, take your foot off the gas a little bit, like, next guy's coming in. The fact that he signed a contract, do you think they're going to be like, shit, this guy's still here? Like, we've still got to perform. Maybe. We've still got... If that makes sense. Could they have been sort of taking their foot off the brake, thinking, this can be, next guy's coming in anyway. It don't really matter. Whereas now he's staying. Could they be like, hold on, we've got to work our way back into the team? And one of the players I mean by that is obviously Jack Grealish is obviously fallen out of love or not in favour anymore. The fact that he signed a new deal, does that mean we're going to get a fully firing and hungry Jack Grealish kind of coming back into the mould?
He's not been fit. I think we're all reading a lot into stuff. Have you noticed Pep trusts Grealish in massive games? He always plays him in massive games and trusts him. Look, for me, I think the whole world's gone a bit crazy about Man City's form. And it's big news, right? One of the best teams in the world for the last 8 years, having their bad dip. Yay, it's brilliant, amazing, blah, blah, blah. But Man City, like Stel said, they always have these little spells, right? They always do. And normally they find a way out of it. Normally it's not November. Normally they start this in about January time, but they've got the players.
But Sava as well, if there was any manager in world football that I've ever seen in my lifetime that can actually switch things up and change that formations and styles of play, it's Pep Guardiola. He reinvents every team that he ever goes into. I mean, how many different Man City teams have we seen under him, and how many different formations? It's amazing. Yeah.
Well, do you remember when they beat us? I want to say 2 years ago. It was the year that they were trailing Arsenal. They came to our ground. We beat them, I think, 1-0. They had all the game. They made a terrible mistake, which we latched onto and scored. And then I believe we got a man sent off late on. And after the game, Pep Guardiola came out. He was like, that's the league done. You know, that kind of reverse psychology. My players don't want this. Listen, the title isn't ours. We're giving it up. But they then came out and did something like 21 games in a row without losing, right? And what he did was he swapped it out and put John Stones playing into midfield with Rodri. And you just went, no other manager in the world would do that. No other manager would look at those things. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does.
You know how we're saying Pep is going to bounce back and he's galvanizing the team and we're giving him a lot of praise for who he is and whatnot. What do we think about Ange? Because he's coming under scrutiny now a lot more. A lot more people are showing discontent. That Ipswich result was an absolute shock. The rumours about players in the bus stop. Why are you laughing?
What do we think of Ange? Was your first question?
I'm saying, like, do we think that he's going to come out fighting in this game as well and maybe do something? Because he's under the cosh now.
You see, the problem is
get a free hit. If we get battered, fans will say, "Oh, but it's City." Or fans will say, "No, listen, this guy's done." He must be.
James,
I would not put it past Ange and the team.
One of these, mate. You need to have one of these.
I would not put it past Ange. Yeah, I would not put it past Ange to switch a couple of things up, play ever so slightly different, right? And then let's say we get a draw or we nick a win or something happens and we get a positive result. I think the problem that we've seen with Ange, though, is the longest he's ever gone with doing tweaks or any changes is for 2 games. And then we default back to his same old tactics.
Yeah.
And then we start losing again. And that is one of the reasons why now I feel I can't even predict games anymore, because I don't know what Tottenham is going to turn up. I don't know whether Ange has learnt. I don't know whether it's just going to default back to that stupid tactics that he does. I just don't know.
You know, my biggest criticism is under every manager for the last, God knows, not Pep, Conte, Mourinho, Pochettino, there was always games where I'd be like, we're going to win this, or this might be a bit too much. Under Ange, you can never say anything. I ain't got a clue. Like, I'm absolutely clueless. People say give a prediction. I go, I don't know. What are you asking me for? I don't understand.
But so do none of you think the pressure he's under right now is going to mean he can't afford to lose this? Or are we saying that he can afford to lose another one?
I think he can, because whatever we say about him, factually, he is only 3 points off top 4. We all know how Daniel Levy acts at the moment.
Even if we go to 13th, Saba, after a loss.
If we go to 13, we're still 6 points. If we go to 13th, we're still 6 points away from the top 4. For me, I think he'll be under pressure if he takes a battering against City. And I'm not saying we will, but if he takes a battering against City, and then I think if we get a battering later on in 3 or 4 games' time against Chelsea, I think then you could see the knives come out. But for me, what you keep seeing about him still, he keeps getting enough good games in the run that will get him a few results to take the pressure off.
Don't see it, sir. I don't see it. Saturday's the start.
Isn't it look like Ten Hag?
How many games
I was thinking that. Ten Hag, yeah.
He'll be gone.
Yeah.
He'll be gone. This is the start. Saturday.
You know what I would worry about?
We could lose 5 or 6. If he's got Romero, Dragusin and Van de Ven all injured, we could concede 5 or 6.
Yeah, but mate, I'm not doubting that. I don't think we will, but I don't think that will see him off. I don't think that will see him off.
But that'll be the start. You've then got Fulham, Bournemouth.
Can I add as well?
Chelsea.
Fulham is a hard game. Fulham is such a hard.
No, Bournemouth is a lot
away. Bournemouth away is a freaking horrible.
Yeah, mate, Fulham. I've watched a lot of Fulham. My granddad in the past was a massive Fulham fan, and I watched a lot of Fulham. Again, that guy they signed is it Pereira they signed from United, the attacking midfielder.
Yeah.
Mate, him playing it. I'm sorry, Udogie versus Toure, Adama Traore. Mate, that's a problem. That's a big problem.
I agree.
He's got no end product. I've got to tell you.
No, but 1-on-1 with Udogie, it don't matter. That's a problem.
He is
Jimenez,
one of the biggest underachievers in his career. Seriously, do you not think so?
But the difference is, Ian, most teams he's forced to make a decision. In this game, all he's going to have to do is skip past Udogie and he's through. Like that's if you look at our games, right? If we look at the games that we've got coming up, and I forget Europa League for a minute. I think Roma are a mess at the moment. They got Claudio Ranieri coming in, maybe the new manager bounce. But if we look at the league games that we've got coming up, and I'm just frantically trying to make sure I get this in the right order. Right. So if we have a look at Tottenham's fixtures, we have got City, Fulham at home, Bournemouth away, Chelsea at home, Southampton away.
Liverpool at home, Forest away.
Yeah. I was just looking at the next 5 up to Chelsea. I want to go at the regional down up to Chelsea.
Calm down, Ian.
Calm down. We could do this all night. Why?
And next season we're playing.
What do you guys need to do in that 5 to keep his job? Because I don't think anything's going to matter what happens in that 5. I still see him as manager for the foreseeable.
If we lost 5 in a row,
for me,
he won't lose 5 in a row though. He won't. You know he won't.
Is Chelsea at home? If I'm not mistaken,
Chelsea's
Chelsea.
at home.
Yeah, if we lose against Chelsea at home, I think that's when he might lose his job. Because
See,
that's
I
when the
think
fans are going to turn against him. Because Chelsea, that's a big fixture.
I think
he-
it's Fulham at home because you can't go through all these losses, lose to City. People go, you know what, fair enough. But then to come off of the back-to-back defeats and then lose again at home, I think that is when people inside the stadium will go, this ain't good enough. Because
if we
when
get-
I
James,
went
I
to
don't think
Ipswich,
people
I was
will,
talking to a
James.
lot of people. I was talking to a lot of people
Our
at
fans love
Ipswich.
him.
What,
Our fans love him. I reckon he could lose the next 10, and our fans will be talking about Phil Tilt and XG.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was when I went to Ipswich, I was talking to a lot of fans, and a lot of fans were saying how much good he's done, and I was like, I don't see it. Like, to show me. And
It's
they
very
were just,
delusional. But you know what though? I think we probably lose to City. I reckon we'll beat Fulham, but then we'll lose to Bournemouth, lose to Chelsea, lose to Liverpool, and get a draw with Forest. And I think
and beat Southampton.
beat Southampton. And I think,
think
in
we'll
there
get Forest.
that would then now suddenly we're 11 points off of top 4. We're in that kind of 15th to 13th place, and I think everything changes then. I think the whole
Still,
dynamic
if
changes.
that's the case, still, you've got 20 points from 18 games.
Yeah.
You're seriously bottom 6.
And then mixed in there, whack Man United Carabao Cup, which now becomes a pressure cooker game because you must win that because you know it's arguably one of our best chances of winning a trophy. Amorim, he's going to want to prove himself. I think this run of games coming up now it's either going to keep Ange at the club for the rest of the season or he'll be gone. This now will decide his future at Spurs.
Do you think he'll let him go all the while still still in the League Cup and still in the Europa League?
He doesn't
Or
look
do we
at that.
think
He
this
looks
is
at
true? Daniel Levy, once the point gap to fourth gets, that's when we're going to see the
only fourth.
Yeah,
He doesn't care about the other ones.
It also depends if Levy gets a knock on the door from some of the senior players as well.
Oh, of course.
It wouldn't believe reports that he's fell out.
Ryan Mason. Can I keep my job if he goes?
But what senior
He'll
players?
probably get the job.
That's a good point, Sava. Like, what stars is going to go up to him and say, "Boss,
I reckon Madison.
we need to change this."
Sonny's too nice. Sonny's too nice for me. Madison's already fallen out with him. I don't care what anyone says. Madison's already fallen out with him. Christian Romero, will he be there? Will he not? Is his head going to be in the game? Is he injured? He's just had a kid. Look, all of these things going on. I think Maz might be in my camp here. I don't think there's enough really senior, strong players that can go and knock on the door for Levy and go, Gaffer. Sorry, Chairman. The gaffers had a mare here. Yeah, I can't see it. I just can't.
Sava,
too nice.
what they'll do is they'll speak to the medical team. They'll speak to Ryan Mason, and they'll say, "What's the vibe like in the camp?" And if the feedback is, "Yeah, they're down. They're just demotivated." If that vibe is given back, then the board will probably get rid of him. They'll feel that he's lost the dressing room without people complaining. He's got enough moles in the camp to feed back to him what the vibe is, and we know
he's got his brother-in-law there.
Yeah, the security guy. Yeah, he's got his brother.
He's in the dressing room.
His granddad.
I just think we're going to win a few of those guys. Call me crazy. This is what Spurs do. I think there's games in there where we look at and go, lose. I think there's games in there that we'll go, that's definitely a win. Those games we will mess up. And some of the ones where we say that's definitely a defeat. Like, I wouldn't put it past Spurs winning more of the difficult games in this run and messing up to Fulham at home, Southampton away. It's what we do. I'm not saying definitely, but like Maz said, I don't know, or maybe James, both of them, I genuinely can't predict Spurs games anymore because I don't know if I'm going to get the team that rolls teams over for 15, 20 minutes or the team that look like they've never kicked a ball together, like against Ipswich. I don't know what I'm predicting.
Our difficulty is we're about to play a group of teams that quite a few of them aren't in Europe, so they can rest each week. For example, Nottingham Forest, Fulham, Southamptons. And these games, they're just going to prepare where we're having to rotate, dealing with injuries.
True.
Man City, you've got a better squad than us. Liverpool, you could say arguably they've got better quality than us. So you're looking at the only one maybe we might.
There's nothing arguable about that. Still, that's a Liverpool.
You know what
Are you
worries me
serious?
about? You know what worries me about Bournemouth and Fulham? The two things that worry about me about Bournemouth and Fulham is they're so well organised.
They are.
That is
Really
Yeah,
well.
that
Fulham,
is the
Fulham are
thing.
decent, I think.
That is the. I've watched a lot of Fulham this season, and they've actually played really well. But they're so organised. They're happy to sit, let you have the ball, and then they'll break. And that is for me.
That's our Achilles heel.
That
I must
yeah,
say
and
so.
they can have
It's
a Dharma
amazing,
running
it's
in on
amazing
goal.
what happens when you have a manager that actually sets the team out depending on the players that they've got, right?
Mhm.
This is what I mean. When you look at that table, and I'm sure come the end of the season we'll probably be above all of them, which we should. But I look at Bournemouth, I look at Brentford, I look at Fulham, and I look at their squads. If I sat here at the beginning of the season and said to 1,000 Spurs fans, who are you taking from Bournemouth, Fulham, blah, blah, I can guarantee none of theirs get into our 11. Look how well organised they are. They're a unit. They work hard.
Bournemouth.
You know what they've all got, James? Do you know what they've all got? They've all got, if you look at the two you mentioned, which were Fulham and Bournemouth, they've both got very quick, tricky wingers. And what don't Spurs like? Wingers.
That's what I said.
And even
Adama versus Udogi. I'm sorry, Udogi is getting cooked.
what's the name of the fullback of Bournemouth?
Kirkes?
I think he's arguably one of the best left back in the league.
He looks good when I've seen him play. He
He's
looks really tidy.
fantastic.
I think Bournemouth away is actually one of the hardest games we've got coming up. They're a horrible team.
Harry Wilson.
Would you take
Harry
Smith Rowe?
Wilson banging form, scoring goals left, right, centre.
I would take Smith Rowe.
I wanted him.
He's a
Well,
good player,
sorry.
and again,
Four
scoring
people
goals left, right,
speak.
centre.
They're all horrible
Say that again,
games.
Wes?
I said, would you take Smith Rowe?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
He'd walk into our team for fun. Yeah. Good footballer.
Over
Well, actually,
Madison.
it depends on the manager. It depends on the manager because I would rather Madison with a different manager than Smith Rowe. But at the moment,
Yeah, listen, I'd prefer. Listen, as I've always said, if you've got a proper manager in here that understands how to get a playmaker, we've got a guy there that gets 20 goal stroke GA a season, proven. We for some reason can't make it happen, and we blame him. But if Sonny's not looking right, Madison's not looking right, Romero's not looking right. Van der Ven, let's be brutally honest, guys. Before he got the injury, I didn't think Van der Ven was playing well for games either.
No, you're right.
He hasn't been good.
Suma, they can't get consistent. Johnson doesn't look good. Like, if there's more players in your team that don't look right than players that are playing well, where do you point the finger?
Yeah.
Right,
We'll
Mason.
sit there as a fan base going, our players aren't good enough. But pound for pound, look at Fulham's 11, look at Brentford's 11, look at Bournemouth's 11, right? No one's going to tell me pound for pound those clubs have got better players. They're organised. They're teams. They don't do stupid high lines. They're a team. Teams.
I would rather have, to be honest with you, I would rather have Mason in charge than Ange for the rest of the season. I genuinely would, because Mason
Oh, come on
way.
again. No.
No way.
No, I agree with Ian. I agree with Ian in that. I just want
No, Mason.
Yeah, I don't think you can say no way still, because what's the difference? I mean, let's be honest. What is the difference? Not really, like...
Maz, I cannot see Mason for a third time. I just can't.
He took over from a cup final.
I'm
and
dead to it all,
Not only did we lose the
Dietrichs.
cup final, we ended up 7th.
Hang on,
He
stop.
took over when Conte was 3rd. We ended up 7th. If he takes over, he will put us in a relegation fight.
One at a time.
What?
Mason won 4 out of 6 after the Man City League Cup final defeat. 12
But we
out of
lost
6.
it.
12 out of
But we lost
18. you got.
Still finished 7th. No, don't want Mason. No,
He's a better manager than Ange, probably, though. Let's be honest.
no, he's not.
No, he's not.
No, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
I want Levy's brother.
I'm not
to
sure
manage
why
it.
you're so invested in it still. I thought you didn't care.
Maz and Mason, isn't it?
Ryan Mason is the common denominator for the last 5 years of mediocrity, right? If he had anything about him, he would have been at a championship or a Division 1 club managing and learning. But he stayed here. Do you know why? Because he hasn't got the balls. He hasn't got the balls. to go out
He
there
actually wanted to leave.
And we're saying
He actually wanted to leave for the club to
Anderlecht won him. Was that
Yeah, he
Anderlecht?
actually wanted to leave.
He lost. He didn't get the job, but he went after the Anderlecht job.
And what happened?
He
No,
had
because he
talks
said
with
no.
them. They
He
went
said
for
no.
someone else.
Yeah, they looked at his work in England and said, "Fuck off."
I think the thing is, forget it being Ryan Mason. I don't think it will take a lot. If let's just hypotheticals. If Ange leaves, I don't think it will take a lot for any new manager to come in and actually get us consistent. And when I say consistent, I don't mean winning every week, but making us difficult to beat. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to get this team into some sort of structure. But unfortunately, because we have these periods where we destroy teams for 15, 20 minutes, our fan base thinks that's sustainable for success in the long term. No one does that. Real Madrid aren't the champions of Europe because they play scintillating attacking football for 90 minutes, right?
Weren't it the last Champions League final? They were terrible, or not? They wasn't terrible, but it was. They killed the game, didn't they? By just sitting back and.
Hang on, Man City, even Man City have spells in games where they destroy teams. Yeah, but Man City know when to put their foot on the ball, when to calm things down. Let's take the sting out of this game. That's what it is. But so many of our fan base think just gung ho. It is what it is. It's absolutely mad. Mate, AT, dude, listen, you bottled it. You didn't come on, and I'll respect you. But you bottled it, mate. You buggered off to have your dinner.
Can I ask AT a question? AT, I'd like to know, since when was XG a measure of success? Like league position, finishing top 4, winning a trophy, I can get. But if your argument is XG, you're like those fans that say we're the FFP Kings and you think that's some kind of glorious moment.
This is the guy that... This is the guy... This is the guy Kuhn was talking about by saying we win in life. That's that guy. That must be him.
We won in life.
Do you know the funny thing is? If XG was so amazing, if XG was the be-all and end-all, why have we lost 5 league games already?
Like, when did XG actually get invented?
Do you know how many we're on target to lose, guys, this year? On average, do you know how many? I haven't worked it out. I'm trying to do it at the top of my head. If we lose 5 every 11, that's 5, 10, 15, 17 games for the season, isn't it, Ian? Help me out. I'm going to you as the elder statesman. 17?
Yeah, 17 games.
If we went by XG, how good of a player would Luka Modric look? Surely he would look terrible.
Oh, mate, these are fans who don't understand football.
By XG, yeah, that's what I'm saying. People like him, people like Xabi Alonso, people like those that ain't going to have the greatest XG. Does that mean they're not great players? Like, I judge football by my eyes, to be fair.
All it means, James, is that we've got X amount of possession and we're creating X amount of chances.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
which have resulted into 50% losses. Great.
But if you're not scoring, if you've got a 10% or an 8% conversion rate, then you can have an XG of 5. It's no good.
Wait, so we've got the best XG. Right, we've got the best XG. And we've lost 5 games. So therefore, we need to have the greatest XG in human mankind ever recorded to get us into that top 4.
What's XG for defending? Is there an XG for defending?
I think it's amazing that we've got the best XG and we've got Richarlison in the team.
How many big chances you concede?
Do you know, right? Do you all know, who's scored the most goals in the Premier League this season?
Ireland?
Is it
Liverpool?
Player or club?
Club.
Liverpool?
Spurs must be up there.
I think it's us, isn't it? Is it us?
No, I think it's Liverpool.
No, it's us. It's us.
It's us?
Is it Brentford joint with us?
It's us. It's us. We've scored 23 goals. The nearest to us is Brentford with 22 and Man City with 22. So if it's all about XG and only scoring goals and nothing else matters, why are we... Let me just double check this is correct. Why are we 12 points off the top and lost 5 games already if XG is the only measurement to judge a manager by?
Where's Brentford?
Where's Brentford? Also, don't he contradict himself?
They're near us, I think, aren't they?
Didn't he just contradict himself, though? Because he just said that all we need to get is players in that can finish their dinner, or we get players that can't finish their dinner. I'm sure he just put a message saying all we need is people that can finish their dinner. But we've got the best goal scoring record in the league, so surely we don't need that.
So the two top scoring teams in the league are joint mid-table, and that's what we're using to measure success.
It must be about defending then, I guess, or lack of defending.
3 defeats in 6 games. Don't worry, the XG is good though.
How many goals? I can't. How many goals have we conceded?
There's only 4 teams that have conceded less than us. The problem is we got a goal difference of +10. Problem is that we're losing. We've lost 5 games by the odd goal.
Ian, do you know what it is? Shall I tell you what
That's
it is?
the problem. We're losing far too many games. We're not drawing. We're not nicking results in these games. It's all very well beating teams, beating West Ham 4-1, Villa 4-1, Everton 4-0, Brentford 3-1.
That's why the XG
we're losing as many as we're winning.
Ian, that's why the XG is high. When we win big.
Yeah.
And that's inflating the overall projection of the season. What it's not looking at is when we lose, why aren't we scoring enough goals? What's happening there? So the XG is saying that if you average the XG out, it will look like we're brilliant consistently, but it's not. It's lopsided in 3 or 4 games. So the XG is all coming from 33% of the games.
As we scored 15 in 4, and we scored 8 in the other 7.
Yeah, the XG is lopsided. That's what I'm saying. It's not a consistent measurement.
Yeah.
Yeah, there should be the trophy at the end of the year. Can you imagine? The team with the best XG gets a Champions League spot.
By the way, Vindaloo, Arsenal fans, they're the ones who invented field tilt. It was a gooner. I remember last year invented that. So it's your mob. Your mob are very culpable of this stat padding, I tell you.
Can I ask you a question? Does everyone know what was the best season we had league position-wise under Poch?
Second.
Yep. That was a quiz, by the way. I knew the answer. In that season that we finished second, can anyone round here tell me what our XG was that season?
Sure.
No idea.
Massive.
And why can't you tell me what it is?
Because he wasn't going there.
I didn't give a damn.
It doesn't matter. We finished second because, funny enough, we are going to finish the show in the next 5 minutes, right? The funny thing is, what people like AT, is it AT, TA, whatever his name is, what people like this don't get is the points override everything. Points override goals scored, goals conceded. Points are what, at the end of the day, when you have a table of 38 games, there is no column for XG. There is the last column will say points, and that team will be nearer the top than the bottom, right?
Not at Spurs, mate. Not according to Ange. Ange wants to win in a certain way, doesn't he?
Well, highest XG. That's what
it's absolutely madness. Like when you look at this league table, and we are gonna finish soon, guys. When you look at this league table, right, the way our fans like AT talk is that we are where Liverpool are. He's talking like we are where Liverpool are, and as I pointed out earlier, we're the only team in the top 15 that have lost 3 of our last 6 games. It's pathetic. No, AT, I don't think Pep would care. Pep cares about the league title that he's lifting at the end of the season, mate.
You know what? Just dawned on me that Slot has had effectively a better start than what Ange did in the first 10, 11 games. And he's only conceded 6 goals as well.
And he's doing it in the Champions League.
Yeah.
How many games did the likes of Arsenal and City drop points in last season? Because obviously City have already dropped points in, say, like 4. Arsenal have dropped points in 6. Surely last season it was nowhere near that. And the reason I'm asking is because I know it's hard. It's kind of saying ifs and buts, but I feel like we've been fairly lucky with the people above us dropping points as well as us dropping points, if that makes sense.
James,
So
have you seen Villa's record over the last 6 games? 6 points.
that's what I'm saying. So we're lucky in the respect that we're only in there because they're also doing not as well as they have been. So, for example, last season, City didn't drop points in 4 games out of 10. They would have been clear. The same with Arsenal. So we've kind of been lucky that they've dropped points also to even look like we're in the race, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But everyone's dropping point. Everyone's losing or drawing with each other this season. If you look at it, it's
look here you go. Look at this. Right. So
yes, Angus has said they lost 2 all season.
Off the back of what someone just asked, this is the league table last year. So it's a bit small. Bear with me 1 second. If you actually look at this league table, right, is that big enough? Can people see that? If you look at that league table, this is last season. Look how many games the top 3 dropped, and in an entire season, that's less than we've dropped in our first 11 this year. If that doesn't tell you how many million miles away we are from being a good team, I don't know what does. Have a look at that. They lost 4, 5, and 3. We've already lost 5 games in 11. That's the numbers you're talking about if you want to win leagues. And we've got people going, oh, we're going in the right direction. We lost 5 games.
But even Villa, they only lost 10. That means we can only lose 5 games from now to the end of the season.
We could lose that in the next 7.
We can lose that in the next 5.
If we lose to City, that's half our games we lost last season already, and it's been 12 games.
Can you imagine if we lost 9 out of the first 18? He'll be gone. He will be gone.
The results will come based on what?
This manager, as I said, if he didn't have that brand new manager bounce, no one would be talking about him being good. Because for a calendar year, he has been, I'm going to show my favourite table as well. Sorry, guys, I know you hate it, but I've got to reinforce it. Over a calendar year, this is Tottenham under Ange. 17 defeats, 8 at White Hart Lane, 3 away wins. The goal difference is 7 for a year, plus 7 for the year. How shit is that?
Can I, you said we only losing 5 more games this season. We've still got to go away to Arsenal, Stamford Bridge, Anfield, and Villa Park. We're going to lose 5 more games easily.
And City. Don't forget
City. Well, I ignored the next 5. I was just thinking, but yeah, we're going to lose.
Season's done. Season is done.
But guys, when you look at this, look at what, again, look at Iriola with that Bournemouth squad. Look at 4, just chilling there, 4 points above Spurs, right? Fulham, Marcus Silva loses Paulinho, loses Mitrovic, brings in people like Adama Traore, who we all think's overrated, and Jimenez, who can no longer score goals, and all of these people like Iwobi. We turn our nose up at all these players. Look at them, 3 points less than the mighty Tottenham in 12 months.
Brighton are 3 points below us, and they had to play
West Ham.
Is it West Robinson Ham as well? Is it their left back Robinson from Fulham?
Yeah,
look at the big one there, guys.
The
big one there.
Craven Cottage.
Everton.
Man United, Everton, right? Man United, though. So Man United, who won 2 trophies under this manager in the last calendar year, sacked their manager for their worst ever start to a Premier League. But yet the last 12 months, we're all laughing at how shit they've done, right? They've actually done better than Spurs. Like that, let that sink in. Everyone laughed at hang on, how shit is Ten Hag? You wouldn't want Ten Hag. He's done a better job than Postecoglou for 12 months and won a trophy. They sacked him.
James, he's won 2 in 2 years. We've won 2 in 33 years. Let that sink in.
Yeah. The issue we've got is the fans and the channels who say we are progressing, we're going in the right direction. They don't invite the kind of guests that will challenge that. The way you just did, Saba, they won't invite our ilk of fan that will say, hold on a minute.
And show that.
Well, I'm saying they don't bring on guests on these shows that will say, hold on a minute. Can I just end this argument of yours that you're putting forward? They don't do it. So people end up saying, look, we have progressed, yeah.
The problem with even what the AT just said, he said by Ange's measurements, he's on track or he's on whatever. Well, by my measurements, I look like Brad Pitt, but it's not fucking true, is it? Like, it is what it is, mate. You know what I mean? I can measure whatever you want.
It's who we
I've
are,
got
mate.
a 12-incher, but my fucking, you know what I mean? I'll
I'll
measure
tell you
it.
what. You keep dropping the F-bombs, you can give me all the money I'm about to lose for this show.
Sorry, mate.
I'm going to do 2 super chats and then we're going to round off the show. Big up to D&B Forever. Always comes in with a last-minute flying header and a little super sticker there. Thank you very much, mate. Really appreciate your support as always. Ricardo came in and said, Ange was found out a while ago and hasn't done anything to progress. We won't be Raiola and Bournemouth. Look, again, listen, I really like Iraola of Bournemouth. I think he's gone in there and done a really good job, made them a really difficult team to beat with a very small budget, a stadium that, as far as I'm aware, doesn't host NFL concerts, make millions of pounds a week. I think he's done a fantastic job. And again, coaching players. But big up, Ricardo. Thank you so much for that. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Went on way longer than I thought. And guys and girls, we'll be back on Friday lunchtime. I've got a video coming out with Tap In Tobes. So we're going to be doing a bit of a video there. And then Friday night, we'll assemble the gang back together for, why not, for some more Tottenham and football chat. Maz, James, Dietrich, Stel, Lubo, Hasper, thank you very much to all of you. Please go and subscribe to Hasper TV. Please go and subscribe to Tottenham Away. Please subscribe to me. And other than that, anyone want to say anything before we go?
Ange out.
Yeah, Ange out.
Wow.
Go on, Spurs.
Anyway, take care, everyone. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Spurs.